Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Oh, it's the pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time, obsessed with the issue of violence. Mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for keeping your appointment with us here in spooky season. It is UK's coziest horror stream and episode 126 of it. Those numbers are creeping up and it baffles me every time. As it is spooky season, as I said, we are trying to do something a little bit, well, maybe it's not so surprising. I thought I'd actually try and scare you guys this time. We're covering horror that I think will be a little harder to take, a little more intense, might actually be quite over the line for a fair few of you. And so we'll see how that's going. This is Eden Lake. We did bump last week's stream, which was on à l'intérieur or inside. That is going to happen at the end of the month on Sunday, I believe, 29th. If you're wondering what happened to that, we will still be covering it. But tonight we are focusing on something that I think is a little bit of a, I wouldn't say obscure gem, but does not have the attention that it deserves. I'm going to be talking about James Watkins' Eden Lake. And as it is a special month for horror movie channels, I wanted to get some special guests on. Some of my absolute favourites are coming on this month. So many that I've actually had to double up a couple of them. So many thanks to Connor and Harry for returning and being willing to double up for this. I think it's a good team, you know.
Yep, evening. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, hello. It's very good to be back.
Always a pleasure to chat horror with you guys. And of course, it's not just our special guests. We're joined as ever by my co-host. He likes to dance all the hip-hop spots. He likes to cruise like Connect the Dots, not just urban. She like the pop. It's that crime guy.
Good evening. How are you doing?
This is quoting lines from that one black kid in the gang.
He has lines.
She likes to dance in the hip hop spots. Come on, no, it's Cisco.
Oh,
Come
you
on,
got
guys.
it. You got it straight away. Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought a couple of weeks ago. I haven't used Thong Song to introduce you yet. So.
Well, I'm glad you did. What a tune.
Brilliant. Oh, I thought that was going to be a difficult one. Far too easy, far too easy. Well, I know you've been on before, folks, and people probably know you, but, you know, it's good form. Should we just have a little round of shilling first if you want to introduce yourself first, TCG?
Yeah, so I'm that crime guy, despite what you might see on screen at the moment. I'm just cosplaying, or not cosplaying. I'm actually going back to my roots tonight, I think. But I have a crime channel, That Crime Guy, which you can find on the YouTube. But mainly at the moment, I am doing Friday night community quizzes again. Speaking of which, there is going to be another one tomorrow, which will have Murgoot, Proper Horror Show, and Denzel Jones returning as the regular guests, but we'll also have special guests Pagan Valley and Diatrip back tomorrow as well. And I also do have a second channel where I'm doing horror-themed gameplay at the moment, as it is spooky season. And I've just recently completed Man of Medan, which was utterly frightening. Lots and lots of jump scares, plenty galore. And before that, I'd completed Until Dawn as well. So expect a compilation on my main channel just covering the amount of times I crapped my pants every time there was a jump scare, because there were plenty.
What did you think of the twist?
Which one? Man of Medan or
in Man of Medan? I've played Until Dawn, but of Man of Medan, I've mainly seen Let's Plays of it, and I've got to say I wasn't particularly impressed with the characters or the story.
No, the story. I tell you what, the story was quite mid, and I kind of sussed out what was happening quite early on. But my playthrough seemed to be quite clean because I kept everyone alive until the end, and then it all went Pete Tong. But we corrected that afterwards very quickly. I think I said on stream at the time that the story was pretty mid, but the horror, the scares were pretty there, were pretty good. It was quite a unsettling environment. What with all the narrow hallways and just the weird camera angles, very sort of Resident Evil-esque. The story itself was pretty mid. I preferred Until Dawn. Until Dawn. Honest, yeah.
But perhaps actually being in the gaming seat rather than a passive viewer makes that game work a bit better.
Oh my god, definitely. Yeah.
I remember really enjoying Until Dawn when I played that, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, anyone who's like a regular on my channel knows, or regular here, knows that I hate playing horror games. I can watch them, not a problem, but actually being in control of that character and guiding them through the story is a completely different matter. Like, I was honestly screaming like a girl at the most mundane of jump scares.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm that bad.
Normally, I'm all right with horror games. I recently played through Evil Within 1 and 2. I've completed both of those now, and I've got a very controversial opinion for most, which is that the first one is far better. But they had some spooky moments in them, but I need to gear myself up to play Silent Hill 2, the original one, because I don't want to go anywhere near the remake. Any sort of modern remake of a horror game, especially one as beloved as Silent Hill 2, is destined to be bin-worthy. But the original one is one of the only horror game experiences where I have, at times, when I've tried playing it in the past, had to put the controller down because it genuinely unnerved me. It's the only game, really, that consistently do that, except for PT, when I've played that a few times.
Yeah, PT gave me PTSD.
Yeah, I bet it did. I've still got that on my PlayStation 4, so every so often I'll boot it up if I am suffering from constipation.
Keep hold of that, mate, because that game on there alone will bump up the price of that PS4.
Oh yeah, I'm well aware. The problem is if you sell it with the game on, you have to also sell your PlayStation Network details, I believe. So that's just a bit of a faff. Anyway.
No worries. I'm really glad you're going to play Silent Hill 2. If I can just add to the list, Fatal Frame 2, perfection.
I want to, but it's very difficult to get a hold of. Very, very difficult to get a hold of. I think there's a retro gaming shop in Swindon that I think maybe has a copy, but it's 50, 60 quid.
Brutal. If you can get an Xbox, I will give you my copy.
Well, actually, that might even save me some money.
Oh, there we go. Maybe we'll manage to do that handover sometime. Sorry, I'm getting derailed into horror games, which I am quite passionate about. Connor, Harry, Connor, would you? Harry, do you want to do the introduction? A little bit of shilling. I'm sure people know and love your work, but.
Thank you very much. Connor and I both work for Lotus Eaters, that being the Sargon of Benjamin. We do work on the daily podcast. We write articles. I recently wrote an article that's free on the website that you can find at Lotus Eaters called A Brief History of Blackwashing, because of it's Black History Month, guys. I've got to do something to celebrate the season. And it was quite... what?
Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Wakanda Forever. I forgot. Throwing my allegiance out there to whatever the characters... Those are such forgettable films after the initial discussed response has passed. So, no, I couldn't...
Isn't it mad?
I couldn't tell you any of the characters' names anymore.
We recorded that total mess a year ago.
Oh, bloody
That
hell,
is
has it
mad.
been that long? Yes, actually, that's a good one to refer to at the moment, which is that Connor and I both went to the cinema and tortured ourselves far worse than Michael Fassbender has ever experienced in this film. by watching the second Black Panther film. And then we did a video on it, which is for subscribers only on the website. So get a £5 subscription and then watch that. Also, I noticed that somebody in the comments, Mergoot, pointed out Soma. I have played a bit of that. I've played all of the first Amnesia. That's a really good game and also a very scary, unnerving one. Soma is also brilliant, and I put that down a while ago. And never picked it back up. There's so many games that I need to play. But now, for no particular reason at the moment, I'm having to play through all of Skyrim and the Civil War quest line for no particular reason. So that's what I'm taking my time with at the moment.
Yeah, we've got some game stuff in the pipeline because speaking of story games that unnerved people, something which unfortunately hasn't come out, but I hoped it would have been out in time for October 11th. I sat Harry through one of my favorite game series. It was very unexpected. After he sat me through a David Lynch film and tortured me with that. And he played Life is Strange. And not to spoil the conclusions we had, but it was a glowingly positive discussion. So look forward to it.
Yeah, I've heard you rate that game.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, Harry actually enjoyed it, and
I enjoyed it more than I expected, but not to rain on Connor's parade a bit. I was far more critical of it than Connor was, but I still came out much more positive than I expected to.
You weren't that critical, to be honest. Like you
have to. I know it winds people up, but you do. If you do a counter reading, if you do a reverse based reading, it's surprisingly easy to do one.
Life is Strange is based in a Straussian way. It's for the true believers.
Straussian makes it sound like it was intentional. I don't think they intended it to be secretly based.
Neither do I, but the virtues of David Madsen shine through nonetheless.
You know, I will just go forward that my favourite readings are the ones where they didn't intend it to be based.
I think you'd enjoy this one.
I'm looking forward to it.
I've just seen Dr. Prepper in the chat saying that you have to finish Soma. If that's, I don't know if he's referring to me.
I think he's meaning me.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do finish it, mate, because I played that on my prior to my Ace Attorney series. I played Soma, and yeah, the ending is brilliant.
I've been told it's, in terms of narrative horror games, I've been told that it is up there with Silent Hill 2.
It is one of the best, yeah, one of the best. I'd say.
All right. Well, yeah. So you know where to go. LotusEaters.com. Do subscribe. These fine fellows put out good content. They move the needle. They are occasionally quite far outside the Overton window in an impressive way that tickles my fancy. And of course, YouTube is not the greatest fan of them. Therefore, I would say it is your very duty to go onto LotusEaters.com and show a little bit of support, whether it's at the bronze, silver, gold tier, or even on the platinum. Wait, am I allowed to say that?
We don't have one.
No, you're not. No, people don't know about that one. You keep that to yourself.
Oh, I've let the cat out the bag now, though, haven't I? Oh dear. All right. Well, you've heard it here first.
To just anyone.
You've heard it here first, folks. We might as well tell them. Okay, unintentionally, here is the premiere. Yes, you've been asking for it for a long time. This is the custom content that people have been thirsty for since day one.
Wait, I didn't know about this.
What the bloody hell is this?
Well, it's what people have been asking for. They watch the content, but they also crave for a Japanese style.
Wait, what was that third bit? What was that third option?
I was just there.
Oh, what? Oh, no, nothing to worry about. Anyway, in this wonderful Japanese style dating sim, you play a newbie that's based intern on your way to start an internship with the Lotus Eaters and find a hubby. That's right, you can interact with and attempt to flirt with horrifying AI renditions of your favourite presenters.
Blocked.
What?
There is far too large an audience for this. Unironically.
Please send me this file. I will play it on the podcast tomorrow.
Hey, I'm right there, actually.
Are you sure you're definitely going to? Because we haven't shown yours yet.
Oh yeah. Wait till you get
Oh,
to
bloody hell.
All right. Yes, and also for you veteran
Energy.
gamers, I will remind you, you've been craving those hard games. This is hard because naturally the kind of thottery that you're proffering is not in the interest of these fine, upstanding gentlemen, which makes it naturally very
That's
hard
all
to
right.
complete the game. Yeah, I think it's a good one. For some reason, it wants to give you all neckties. I don't know why. But, oh yeah.
Billie Eilish is a sensitive topic today. She's got a terrible back tattoo and it's just ruined the
I was
view.
going to say, it's been so over for Connor today.
It's never been more over.
boss level.
Is this Dan?
Obviously not.
Oh,
It's a very literal boss level, right?
Ah.
Yes, final challenge. You've got to make it. And
Right, okay.
Hit the shield, hit the shield!
yeah, so shill now. LotusEaters.com platinum membership, and you too can get access to Lotus Sweethearts.
Is this that game
including
that Anita was working on for years and never delivered?
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't talk about him. Oh no.
When you get to the end of the Depression quest, if you stick around after the credits, that's what you get. Just nobody ever did.
Oh dear.
This is the only way that one former member of Lotus Eaters would actually get a girlfriend.
Ooh, inside gossip. Well,
Ouch.
well.
Let's move swiftly on from that.
The news is out, folks. Yes, so sign up now, show your support, and you can, and maybe you can get the platinum DLC content to do the Callum Harem subquest.
I am not joking, right? You actually have to make that into an actual game.
May I ask, did you produce all of that yourself, or did somebody else do the artwork?
Oh, a good friend helped with the artwork. I'm incompetent.
good friend.
I just did the degeneracy and the migrants in the
That's your
background.
specialty.
Yes. I've commissioned quite a few things, and very few of them get rejected, which is quite pleasing. One person refused to rap about sounding. But otherwise,
Oh dear.
it's okay. There's plenty of them on Fiverr that they do my bidding in the end.
If that was real, we would play it on Lads Hour because we are going to start doing games on Lads Hour at some point.
Oh,
I think next week we might be Charlie might be bringing in his wife's husband. Well, no, his wife's boyfriend.
His wife's husband.
Oh,
hang on. Is he the buck?
I mean, he's broken.
Is he the bull? I mean,
something's broken. He's bringing in his wife's boyfriend's Switch so that we can all play Mario Kart together.
Oh, not a Switch.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing
Hey,
wrong
what
with
else are we
Switch.
supposed to play Mario Kart on?
We'll have to do Mortal Kombat at some point as well.
Can I
yeah.
say, I just really want to see you guys play Worms Armageddon. That'll
I've
be-
never.
Oh, yeah, actually, that'd be amazing. That's a fantastic idea. Put that in the back pocket.
Very happy to. Oh, all the team names you could have. Oh, love it.
Also,
Oh,
just one
Quiplash.
very quick.
Lotus Eaters Quiplash.
James Hurley in the chat has asked what mine and Connor's favorite horror game is. I just wanted to shout out James Hurley. You know, you're gonna get on your bike and leave. There's Twin Peaks, but my favorite horror game, I don't know. Does Resident Evil 4 count? Does it actually count as a horror game?
I would say so.
Yeah, okay, Resi 4 then.
Interesting.
I don't think I've played that many, to be honest. I mean, I did quite like the RE2 remake. I tried playing RE7 in VR, and I nearly grew a third arsehole. I was so terrified. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
Resi
see,
7's
I've got
really
VR,
good
but
up until the middle of it, really. But the first half of it's amazing. I locked my friend in a room while she was playing that in the dark, and I just heard screaming. Because it was that opening section when the girlfriend climbs up the stairs.
I mean, I've got a VR for the PS4, and I absolutely will not go anywhere near any VR games. I mean, it's bad enough me playing the games that I play now, but my boy wants me to play Five Nights at Freddy's on VR, and
Well,
he's
the
got
film's coming out.
Yeah, he wants to go and see it, but unfortunately he can't because it's a 15, which he's well disappointed. But yeah, he's got it on VR himself because he's got the old MetaQuest, and he absolutely loves it, and he wants me to play it, and I'm just like, nope. Can't go anywhere near it.
I would love to watch that. I'm not gonna lie. Oh well, folks. Shall we shall we get into the? I'm so sorry for inflicting that on you, but since you said you'd play it on the podcast, heck yes, I will send that your way. But yes, on to tonight's subject. Getting to EFAP levels here, 20 minutes in. I love it. All right. So quickly, Eden Lake is the second film from British director and writer James Watkins. This is the first time he directed, but he wrote both this and the film that came before, a very underrated, pretty much forgotten film by the name of My Little Lie. Anyone seen that? Anyone remember?
Not heard of it.
Nope.
Don't worry, don't worry.
I looked at IMDb and saw this guy supposedly directed an episode of Black Mirror and also a show called McMafia, which just from the
Yeah.
name alone intrigued me.
I'm going to be honest. His career's been hit a few times, and
Never mind.
I can't speak to McMafia. I think he's a very good director, genuinely, but for some reason I don't think he is getting hired for the jobs he's worthy of.
Ooh, The Woman in Black. Ooh.
Oh yeah, he did that. That was such a boring film.
That was shy.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best thing about that film was it didn't pull many punches, so it had that going for it. But he followed Eden Lake up with The Descent 2. I mean, this is a thing that and if you're wondering, yes, it is shocking, but
Wait,
it's kind of
did that even show up on his IMDb? I'm just looking. I'm just looking. I don't remember that being there.
Possibly director only.
Sorry, I'm just clarifying. I do remember My Little Lie. It was like a bit almost like a Big Brother type horror film, wasn't it?
That's exactly it. Yeah,
I
it
just
was
remember-
a horror version of Big Brother before Charlie Brooker did it.
And I'm just going through the wiki now, and I completely forgot it's got Bradley Cooper in it.
Hang on, what?
Yeah, Bradley Cooper's in it.
You're kidding me?
No. One night, a man named Travis Patterson, Bradley Cooper, arrives, and it hover over his name, and it is
Oh my goodness.
the Bradley Cooper. Yeah.
I'd completely forgotten that. Bradley Cooper seems to have done quite a few really good horror films in his early days. Midnight Meat Train is the other one, obviously, folks.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Midnight what?
Midnight Meat Train, one of the most embarrassing things to try and ask for in a video store. But luckily, they all died, so now it's fine. No, it's genuinely...
Midnight Meat Train doesn't sound like something... That sounds like a back alley videotape show.
That sounds like the final night at Conservative Party conference.
Just don't tell Vinnie Jones that to his face, yeah?
Vinnie Jones was in it.
Yeah, he's the big bad guy.
Yeah,
it's
seriously good.
He's the BBG. Okay, we all have career slumps.
Hey, it's overlooked, but it is really good. They got in a Japanese horror director and gave him a load of money to do this American film. He did a great job. But yeah, Eden Lake, so classic trajectory. You do your independent film, you show a lot of free thinking, you get a little bit more money, and then studios notice you and they kind of ask you, will you do a bit of schlock? That seems to have been what happens to Mr. Watkins, as he didn't seem to be able to take off and then, take the Christopher Smith route, where he was able to keep going with the independent films, alas. Oh, I should mention, we have had we did have this come in a while ago. Sorry, Mr. GB. Oof. Guys, there is a Black Panther 3. Are you up for it?
I suppose if it's David Lammy filming in Palestine, will start any day now.
When I first saw that post, I initially read that as David Duchovny.
Very versatile actor.
That could work.
Well, what's his face? The main guy the main guy from it, he died. And wait, no, he died before the second one. Oh my god, my mind has erased it. Like I feel like it's like an immune response.
Well, the end of the movie was literally,
and then it erased itself immediately.
The end of the movie erased him because Black Panther was implied to be an absent father.
Savage.
Oh yeah, that film peddled
how could they do this?
Spicy stereotypes, didn't it?
Well, there was a giant article write-up saying it was really difficult for the black female actresses to fight the main villain because we had to act a lot around water and black women don't swim. And I was like, what?
What? They
No.
say that?
There's a whole article about it. I had linked it in the description of the Wakanda Forever review. It was wild.
Oh
They-
my
Oh
god.
no. Oh no.
Well, I like Tim
It's
Paul's reading
stranger
on
than
that film,
fiction, guys.
which is that it's actually really racist because they defeat the main villain, who's an underwater Mexican, by drying his wet back out, and it was like, yikes, guys. Why did you put that? What did you mean by this?
Final Showdown takes part in the DMV. Oh, terrible.
Wait, what's that beeping sound?
Yeah, the final boss.
Yeah, it's the mission to replace the batteries. Crikey.
I'm just imagining from Lord of the Rings, and he says, "Change the batteries" at the edge of the cliff. No.
Oh, crikey.
Anyway,
All right.
Eden Lake.
So Eden Lake, yeah. This, I mean, it doesn't sound controversial in comparison, does it? But it nevertheless was. I think it ruffled a bit of feathers, which is possibly why James Watkins was put onto, shall we say, slightly more derivative there. Again, I am not criticizing the director. I think he's really good. But I think studios, for some reason, did not love him. This kicked off a wave of what was called hoodie horror. There was about 6 or 7 of them, and it branched out into films that were more serious, but nevertheless horrific. I'm thinking primarily of Harry Brown, if you saw that one.
I've got it, but never watched it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good, pretty happy to show how grim things get on a fictionalized but very believable version of the Aylesbury estate. Yeah, willing to go quite grim, even if it pulled a few punches to make the message a bit more palatable. But I still recommend it. It was very good stuff from Michael Caine in that, and David Bradley. Yeah, nice and grim. Anyway, lots of films followed on from this, but this, I think, hits hardest. There's a film called Attack the Block, which attempted this,
Yes.
but massively. That was a subversive version of this.
Interesting.
Well, you're supposed to feel. I've watched it once, and you're supposed to feel bad for him by the end of it. But even watching it as a teenager, my main thought was, being somebody who had not explicitly been victimized by gangs of chavs before, but certainly had some confrontations with them. My entire feeling the whole way through the film was, no, screw these guys. I want the aliens to win.
Well,
Oh, yeah, totally.
Every time there's that one kid whose head gets popped off. Ironically, the main character ends up to be like a fatherless son by the end. He sacrifices himself for the good of everybody else. And I was just thinking, other than the one woman who they rob at the beginning, screw all of them.
See,
Yes.
I get all of that. However, much like the unintended readings that often happen, the main strain of it, and I do not condone this reading, was that if you're going to be invaded by a giant army of alien mutant gorillas, only black inner city youths are capable of defending civilization. And it was like, what did they mean by this?
Exactly. I mean, this is a film I highlighted, Harry, when you were doing your subversive readings thing.
Yeah, I
Whereas
can definitely see the subversive reading, but mainly just because of the fact that I hate chavs. They have, like, in my teenage years, they were my mortal enemies in terms of the groups that I spent time with and the groups that were against mine in alignment. Therefore, I'm biologically hardwired to not feel sympathy for them.
I went to school in southeast London, so I was around roadmen all the time, and so that vernacular is like a cheese grater on my ears, but it's also utterly familiar. Like, one of the kids in my school actually got killed because he got his head kicked in the street because he tried to rob a drug dealer. Like,
Really? Bloody
Yeah.
hell.
Crikey.
And another kid got scholarship to an American university to play football, and about 2 months before he flew out, he decided to get into dealing drugs with his brother and just threw it all away. Like, that kind of stupid stuff happened all the time.
Bloody hell. I lived on a decent estate, like a relatively decent new build estate from the early 2000s, but it was right next door to a big council estate. So it was very frequent that I would have run-ins with those sorts of gangs. and every single time it would be they'd just be throwing insults at me because I had long hair, and they're just telling me to get long hair. But I noticed it very, very quickly how none of them would say a single word to me because even back as a teenager, I was a very large teenager. Back then, if they were on their own, they wouldn't say a single word. It's just when they were in the big group.
Classic every time. Yes.
Yeah.
Much milder experiences than you two, but yes, have had fun encounters, and I also lived in an increasingly fun part of London around the time Eden Lake was being made, and there just became streets that you would not go down.
I just want to put it out there now and say that when I was a teenager, I was very much a hoodie. So, you know,
you and I are genetically opposed to one another.
Well, hang on, because the hoodie was kind of like the precursor to the chav. So I don't necessarily identify as a chav as such. I never went down that route.
Council housed and violent.
No, okay. I did grow up in a council house. Damn
Were
it.
you more like the kids in Hot Fuzz that he employs to go and spray paint the cameras and raid the corner shop?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I knew it, BCG.
I've done a lot of growing up over the years.
James Hurley has asked how bad did London become from 2000 to 2020? I think other people will be able to contrast better, but the last few times I've been there, I went to Brixton and witnessed a corner shop robbery as I was in the corner shop. And I've done a lot of research into the drill gangs, and you can go on drill.uk, I think it is, and find a map of all of the territory of all of these, of all of the drill gangs. And then you can also do a lot of the work by looking into all of the murders that they've committed against one another.
So
Thank you very much, Bilbo Balboa, by the way.
I've lived in London all my life. Funny, someone in the chat, Richard, says I live in Thamesmead. That's not that far from me. And Thamesmead's a very rough area, so sorry about that, mate. But when I was a kid, I never used to like London because it was bustling, noisy, chewing gum everywhere. It was generally unpleasant. I would do anything to go back to there now because the population of London has expanded to the point of where if you're on a tube, you're going to be pressed against the doors. Everyone's inconsiderate. Everyone's rude. There's rubbish. I just got back from Japan, right? There's not a single bin on the roads in Japan. There's vending machines everywhere. But there's no litter. The tubes are immaculate, and it's because the people actually care about where they live, and they're not on top of strangers all the bloody time. Walking around London now, it's just like it doesn't have to be like this, but it is. It's just miserable.
I have to say, the only time I'm inconsiderate to other people is when I'm in London.
Yeah, I think it is contagious.
It's
it
the
really
mentality,
is. Yeah. And to chip in my own thing, as I said, I lived in an area that got increasing. I lived in a Zone 2 area that got increasingly unfriendly, basically. Lots of new people turning up, and
Jesus, Richard.
Basically,
Richard
there were.
just said he's been mugged and stabbed.
Oh, damn, man!
Bloody hell! Hope you're all right now.
I remember you saying about being mugged, Rich. I didn't know you'd actually been stabbed. Sorry to hear it, mate. That's rough. I'm so sorry. Where I lived, there were 7 stabbings and then a shooting, and that's when I was like, I've got to get out of here. I've got to leave.
Yeah.
London got fun, but my ability to comment on it sort of ends in the late 2010s, basically.
Yeah, one of my friends got stabbed in the stomach as a teenager, and he's got a scar from it, but he's a police officer now, so that's cool. And my other friend was walking around Crewe one time, and because he's a metalhead, a gang of chavs decided to start following him and began throwing bricks at him. Just for no reason.
Yeah. Oh, crikey. So
I'm sure there was a reason. You know, maybe there wasn't enough youth centres.
Yeah. Must have been it. Only they've been playing pool instead. Oh wait, there are youth centres there, and you can go to play pool. Oh, must have been something else. Socioeconomic factors.
Purely socioeconomic factors. Yeah. Rough. Yeah. So there is an issue. I would say it's gotten worse from my perspective, but this was made in 2008 and it was kicking off. and this film managed to basically preempt a lot of stories that came out. It was based on real life incidents, but slightly exaggerated, but then it managed to preempt things that came a fair bit closer, particularly the recording things on mobile phones, which is a key thing. I'll just interrupt here to say, Marina, thank you so much for the super sticker and a second super chat. Thank you so much for $5 on the super chat. Much appreciated. And forgive some terrible shilling that you've prompted here, since I forgot to do it myself. Folks, it is spooky month. It's a special time of year for me, so if you wanted to show some appreciation via super chats or by joining the channel as a member, either here or on Subscribestar, that would be very much appreciated. You will get exclusive content, early access, and I'm probably going to drop an exclusive video maybe tomorrow, because I made it and I think it may have been a bad idea to make it, but I will let channel members be the judge of that. So there you go, a little bit of late shilling. Thank you for the prompt there, Marina. Yes, what I was saying is this preempted a lot of real life incidents, and I've read a lot of criticism of this film, and it seems to be accused simultaneously of preying on baseless stereotypes and just ripping off things from the tabloids, which is like, hang on, what?
It's the equivalent of when you can report something on Facebook for saying, I'm in this photo and I don't like it.
Yes.
Wait,
very
so are parts
true.
of this film based on real events?
Yeah, they're so mostly fears around attacks, happy slapping incidents, as they were called at the time.
Oh, I remember happy slapping.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah. For people who weren't there, it was you would record yourself assaulting. It was kind of like the British version of the knockout game, basically.
Now there is a phrase that I've not heard in an age.
Oh, really? You're missing Colin O'Flaherty? Maybe.
I don't watch comedy.
Oh,
comedians, I should say.
Fair. Yeah. What, happy slapping or the knockout game?
Let's move on.
Let's move on, indeed. Let's move on. Probably got flagged enough for saying those, but never mind. Yeah, so there were incidents. I think this did manage to get up. You know what? I'll check now, but the main thing that comes up when you think about this stuff is that photo of David Cameron, which I think must be in 2010. I bet if I just look up David Cameron hoodie.
Is it Hug a Hoodie?
Oh, I vaguely remember this.
The Hug a Hoodie campaign, yeah, I remember that.
The Hug a Hoodie campaign.
Okay, I've got it. BBC.
We were so innocent.
Oh, it was 2011 when David Cameron.
Hell.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share this very quickly.
Oh,
But
same
yeah,
with the
Richard
London
said he was-
riots. Great.
Richard
This
said he
photo.
was victim of happy slapping as well. Richard,
Oh,
you get out of
Richard,
London.
mate.
You've been victimised so much, man.
Oh, Richard, I'm sorry to hear it, man. Oh, so I've got this infamous photo of David Cameron going down to an estate and about to get, forgive me, brapped. I know. It's just not meant to be said in a Staffordshire accent, is it? In my posh, slightly RP drawl, eh? But yeah, this kind of really sealed the fate. But this is 3 years after Eden Lake. So what I'm trying to say effectively is it is prescient. It is very prescient. And forgive me, I'll just get this up before and address a couple of supers. Dollface, thank you very much for the £5. Socioeconomic factors send their regards. Couldn't possibly comment, my good friend. And Mr. Gently Benevolent, oh Christ. Would you charming Spice Girls be so good as to push proper choose NFTs on a Lotus Eaters segment? She's too shy to push them and the plushies herself. There are some
I've no
deeply
idea what they are.
disturbing law.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
No,
Deeply
Proper Horror Show doesn't know
disturbing
either.
law. I kind of invite it myself, don't I, with this stuff? Thank you very much, nevertheless, for the $5 Australian. Mr. GB, very much appreciated in Spooky Month. I thought it's super interesting that this film started with our protagonist, Kelly Riley, looking at young children, a young, diverse classroom, and kind of playing a game. Do you remember what they did at the start? The kids were covering their eyes, covering their ears, covering their mouths.
See no evil.
See no evil, see no evil. Yeah.
Yeah. This made me think they were kind of saying, this is a bit of an open secret. This is something we know we shouldn't talk about.
Well, the interesting thing with that is that then people were talking about it on the radio on the drive to Eden Lake.
They were.
And they were in a way indicting the failures of the education system that she's participating in. So it's almost like as if she and the system she's working in is generating the same kind of crazy people that has hunted the middle class to extinction.
Oh, I can see it. I can see it. I think it's no accident that she is a teacher. And a lot of the times, her initial responses to seeing things are kind of denial and sympathy. You know, I suppose before we get further into it, and I apologize, folks, I'm just kind of excited to do this one because I love this film and I love these conversations with you guys. We should probably actually tell people what this film is about in case they haven't watched it. Does anyone want to try the one paragraph summary of this film? It's not a super complicated plot, but
middle class couple go for a weekend away to a nice little quarry and get harassed by a bunch of teenagers, and it all goes south from there.
Michael Fassbender is the man with the world's worst survival instinct and gets murdered while trying to propose to his wife. Then his girlfriend. Then she gets murdered as well.
I just don't know why he didn't manipulate the metal around him to, limit the threat.
I don't know why he kept throwing himself into overtly dangerous situations.
I'm
going to walk into this home potentially filled with a gang of children who will beat the S out of me.
I actually think it's for the same reason that she's a teacher, and that it's meant to be a reflection on how the things can only get better conditions have created people that are so comfortable with prosperity that they genuinely think they can reason their way out of everything. Like, he has absolutely no risk management skills as a man, and that's mental. Whereas the Chavs, they're barbarians, but they're at least closer to what it was like pre-civilization. He just doesn't know how to deal with that because he's been too comfortable for too long.
Yeah.
Sorry, TCG.
I was going to say, because this whole situation could have been avoided had they just got up and gone to a different location.
Yeah, if they just left.
Yeah, but no, it was kind of like, no, I got here first. It's like, yeah, but you realise this isn't your area.
At this one lake.
Yeah.
Well, not just that. I can reason with the violent Chav, with the dog, and the knives that are insulting me because everything can be settled with polite discussion. It's like, no, they are just barbarians and they will kill you.
Yeah.
And then he also drops a knife. He has a knife in his hand in a dangerous situation where he's about to obviously get shanked, and they all have knives. And he drops it. He's an idiot. I'm sorry.
I told you, didn't I, Connor? He drops 2 weapons over the course of the film.
He does, but again, I think this is risk management. Like, it's like he's the kind of guy that if he gets cornered in an alleyway, he'll try and talk his way out of a mugging rather than hand over his wallet.
Oh yeah, he has an axe. He has an axe at one point, and he just leaves that behind. Oh God, I'm sorry. Proper horror show. I know you said you love this film. I found this film horribly frustrating because I have experience with kids like this, and I know what they're like, and also I have a functioning amygdala. I looked at this situation and said, right, there are kids who are obviously troublemakers, obviously violent. There is a culture in the area where the adults don't do anything about it. There doesn't seem to be any police patrol on foot or in cars actually trying to manage these ruffians going about the place. You know what? I'm not going to stay overnight in the place where I know a load of violent thugs hang out regularly. I'll go somewhere. I'm sorry. I wanted to. When Michael Fassbender had bad things happen to him in this film, I was yelling at the screen saying, "See, I told you so. I told you this would happen, Michael." And then everything else that happened, I hated this. I hated it. So I'm sorry.
Can I attempt a weak defense of it?
But hang on. Before you do, and I'm sure it won't be a weak defense. Remember, Owen Jones and his ilk are currently training people to not cross the road because it might be seen as prejudice.
Ooh wee.
I know. That's
so
true.
He probably did some of these like classes, and I've done them myself in my work, and perhaps he doesn't want to be offensive or offending the Chavs by crossing the road and potentially avoiding danger because he doesn't want to be seen as.
I'm not saying that parts of this film aren't reflective of how certain people face situations like this. I'm not saying that the themes of the film aren't reflective of something that can be found in real life, but I've got to feel like I'm going almost like Harrian with Mulholland Drive, and I can't believe I'm doing this, which is that I don't care. I don't care. I have no sympathy for a single character in this entire film. They all were very one-dimensional. If his character was established further than being one-dimensional, I just really need to propose. I just really, really need to propose, and I need to do it right here. If it was any more characterization than that, maybe it would have been more forgivable. But that's the only characterization we get, and then he's an idiot. Other than that, he is an absolute moron who just wants to save face in front of his girlfriend. I could rant about it for ages because he just frustrated. Who goes into a house? Who just walks into some stranger's house in a hostile environment? Who keeps trying to confront these gangs of chavs instead of just getting out? I'm sorry.
All right, I'm not going to defend him going into the house. I hated that bit. Yep. I think it was 100% unnecessary. It was, I think, the plot is quite thin. This is a just about 90-minute movie. I think it was thrown in to give us a bit of variety and to kind of bump things up for the final ending.
Same with her running across the spike.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Oh yeah,
I found there to be a lot of contrivance in that film, in this film, because she runs into the spike, she's about to get away, and then the screenwriter, James Watkins himself, realized, hold up, if she just gets away, then she'll just get away, and I've got a half hour of the film to continue. Like I'm only 60 pages in, I need another 30 pages, and then she ran on a spike. I was so annoyed. I'm sorry. This film reminded me of when I was in university and I was doing a module for screenwriting, and they were showing us short films, right? And this lecturer that I had showed us these short films that were all just a sequence of miserable events happening for the sake of miserable events happening with no greater meaning other than, isn't life miserable and terrible? And he would continually show us these short films and then tell us about how deep they were and try and get us to talk about the deep themes they had. One was horrible. It was a woman, this teenage girl she's having sex with an older man in a trailer park, and she's walking down Manchester Canal, and she throws a supermarket plastic bag into the canal, and it turns out it's holding her aborted fetus. And that was the whole film. That was the whole film. And he was like, oh my God, it's got so much to say about the modern condition, isn't it? And I said, no, it's miserable. It's awful and miserable. And sadly, this film reminded me of that. And I think I've just got a knee-jerk response to films which are, here's a miserable sequence of events happening with one-dimensional idiot characters propelling it forward.
Now I know what Katy Perry meant when she said, do you ever feel like a plastic bag?
Oh. I don't mean to rain on everyone's parade. I just needed to get that off my chest.
I had a slightly different reaction to it, and that is that I could recognize that there were elements of competence gone into the filmmaking, and I actually did feel for the main couple because they had a degree of wholesomeness about it, and they were very undeserved in being preyed upon. I said this to you, Proper Horror Show. I had to pause this multiple times and just stop because I was like, bloody, I just feel like I'm watching found footage of someone enduring torture porn. Like, it was a bit too relentless. At least with the suspension of disbelief in a slasher, you've got some kind of fantastical monster. There's a bit of fun hunting someone down. This was just a bit much. Like, it's well made mostly, other than the contrivances, but I've never been this disconcerted watching something.
Oh, watch Funny Games, and this will
I've
look
heard
like a
that
walk
Funny
in the park.
Games is really distressing.
Yeah,
very much. Very similar.
I didn't even find this particularly distressing to watch, just because I thought to myself, I'm watching a bunch of one-dimensional cartoon characters have bad things happen to them. So, because I couldn't relate to or empathize to them as people, I found myself not being engaged at all. Like, when the bad thing happens where they set the kid on fire, I mainly just thought, kid, for one, where did you come from? You just reappeared in the film out of nowhere. 2, what did you expect to happen? 3, the main gang member, the main chav has just turned into a cartoon evil villain at this point. So this sequence of events is just like, look at this horrible thing. A child is burning to death. Yes, film. Okay. It was almost pretentious in how much it was insisting upon itself.
I mean, that kid getting like late stage African dictatorship, I wasn't that fussed by because he betrayed her. But
Yeah.
with the main couple just being relentlessly tortured, I was a bit like, this is making me a bit uncomfortable now.
All right, so I mean, I'm closer to Connor, but because bear in mind, I've got my huge bias in favor of horror, so I am always going to like give a lot more leeway on this. But it's not like Harry doesn't make good points. There are contrivances. There is numerous cases where your woman, whose name I have immediately forgotten, played by Kelly Riley, and her name is Jenny.
Boob lady
from the block.
Yes. Oh gosh. She manages to escape a bunch of times silently when she would have obviously made so much noise that she would have been found out, such as when she gets on top of the roof of the construction cabin.
Yep.
Well, they would have seen her as well. I mean, I'm sorry, but yeah, I get the contrivances in this film. I mean, you peripheral vision exists.
Yeah, she would have been heard on this.
She might as well just been like, you know, like how they do it sometimes, like in Spider-Man, where they burst into a room and he's like stuck on the ceiling. You know, they might as well have just done that.
Yeah, and she jaffared him in Aladdin here, where she just created.
I highlighted this. It's the old, was it the Kenobi maneuver? Look, you can't go around
small
that.
Ball of fire. I could never run around a small ball of fire.
I could never jump over it.
Oh no.
Yeah, so there are contrivances, I'm not going to lie. I've highlighted that they throw stuff away. They throw 2 weapons away.
Mm-hmm.
He has an axe. He leaves it in a tree.
Yeah. To challenge you, Harry, I would say that a lot of what horror does is it has to push characters outside of rational bounds slightly. Now, if they go way too far, it's utterly unbelievable. It's just, carnage candy, as Randy says in Scream 2. I think this is pushing them outside of believability the right amount. Steve is shown to be like consistently over cocky and slightly ignorant. Like, his approach is to kind of ironically distance himself from things, but he's also showing off to her quite a lot. But nevertheless, it is amped up enough so that he wouldn't do the obviously sensible thing. And I would suggest that this is everyone's here. I'd suggest we possibly did this because a filmmaker really made this film to kind of confront people with the truth that there is a problem, and to basically to make middle class Owen Jones audiences sort of confront the issue.
See,
I would agree.
I appreciate where you're coming from there, and I do agree that there is wiggle room with how irrational or nonsensical characters can behave. And hey, you could even say that how stupid these characters acted in parts was realistic to how sheltered middle-class people would act in these situations. But that doesn't mean that it's going to engender any sympathy in me for these characters, especially because I do think that the characterization of these people is very thin, very one-dimensional, two-dimensional at best. To me, what you're saying there about Steve to me is just nice proposal, man. I just really need to propose to my girlfriend, and I really need to do it here. Damn the danger that I put myself in doing so. It'd be like
the 37-year-old proposer.
Yeah. It's like proposing at the
Yours,
edge of
Chavs,
rocky.
must propose.
It's like I see a beautiful rocky gorge with a beautiful view, but all of the rocks at the end are incredibly loose and crumbling away. And I see that, I register that, and I think, no, I still desperately need to propose there. And so I try it, and then I slip and fall because one of the rocks comes out from under my feet, and I fall to my death. I'm sorry, if I did that, I wouldn't expect any sympathy from me.
Sorry. Oh dear. Fair enough. No, it's I'm not going to argue that he's maybe 1.5 dimension. She is maybe. I think she's 2-dimensional, and I would say the Chavs are mostly 2-dimensional in a slightly cringe way. Like they try and bring in the dynamic of they're not unambiguously evil. Some of them are led, and then there's the background, etc.
Oh no, he was socially pressured into burning a child alive. Oh no, I feel so bad for. Oh, she stabbed the one who had a sad face in the neck. Look at how sad his face is. What a little puppy. Oh, I feel bad for. No, he's dead. Good.
I'm torn on it. I mean, were they saying that? Were they saying they just needed youth clubs in the home? I need 10 C's of youth club stat.
They played the sad music for a brief moment. There was the sad stinger music when he gets stabbed in the neck, and she has this horrible reaction of, "What have I done?" You've got yourself out of a dangerous situation. I don't care how derpy and sad his face. I don't care how gormless he looked. He was a danger.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, mate. I'm with you on that. When she popped him in the neck, she was all like, "Oh my god!" I was kind of like, "Yeah, well, you know, they did just murder your well, fiance, if you can call him that. If you can call him that.
She put the ring on like 5 minutes before he bled to death. So
okay, yeah. So yeah, they did murder your fiance. So you know
that does entitle her to his assets.
It's like you want to play with the big boys, you'll get treated like one. And also, I kind of get the rationale for I can't remember his bloody name now. Hang on, Brett's motivations.
The main one.
Yeah. I mean, I can get his motive. They did exaggerate it, of course, but obviously, you know, with little Bonnie getting stabbed by accident, obviously, you know, being a child, and he wouldn't have been able to rationalise that it was an accident, and you know, he obviously lost the plot.
He's not really a child. He was like 15, but he's just a typical hoodlum. Like, it doesn't matter about morality. It's just it's his
exactly,
style.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, because there is a lack of morality there. It's as far as he's concerned, you've wronged me by killing my dog, regardless of the situation or the circumstances. It doesn't matter the fact that they were the ones who essentially had initiated it. The fact of the matter is, you know, you've wronged me, so now I have to correct that.
I can understand that, but once again, for me, mate, I'm just horribly biased against these sorts of people because I've seen people like that victimize my friends. I've seen people like that. I know that, they, like I said, gangs of them threw bricks at my friend for no particular reason. I see people like that, and I go, oh no, but what if one of them looked really sad while they were trying to throw bricks at my friend?
Oh,
don't
of course.
Feel bad for him then? No, I don't care.
Yeah.
He tried to hurt my friend. He could have killed my friend. So I was projecting that venomous animosity.
Well,
these people.
No, I completely agree. I mean, like I say, you know, like yourself, I've sort of grown up around that as well, and I've without going into detail, I've had some things happen. I've had like friends go through some real dark stuff off the back of that, but. Yeah, I didn't sympathise with this group at all. I mean, they had strength in numbers to turn against Brett and essentially rein him in, but they chose to follow along with it, so they were complicit in my eyes.
The organised minority.
Exactly.
Fools.
Yeah. You know, Cooper got what he deserved, as did Paige. So I
Yeah.
Can we talk about her getting Simpson hit and run? Because that was another major contrivance of where she's just standing in the road like a pleb.
Yeah, but she was a pleb throughout the whole film.
Sure, but no one just stands in the middle of the road.
Well, you know.
Well, she got surprised, but in this one, Jenny wasn't surprised at all. Sorry, Marina Bellotta's given $2 saying me too. Was that? Oh, I don't know what you're agreeing with, but I'm guessing it's zero sympathy towards the gang. I think. The funny thing is that
I cheered when she got run over.
So did I.
I went, yes. I was really hoping that she was going to go like Rambo on them and just turn around and run them all over. That's what I was hoping.
She was coated in mud like Arnie at the end of Predator, so I would have loved.
Yeah, I was hoping I was hoping it would have been cathartic.
But no,
into the chopper.
Tortured at the end, screaming.
Since we were talking about this portrayal, you know, I have to bring it up. We've been saying like they do try and balance it. They maybe even are too charitable in how much they balance it. But would you believe that one Owen Jones thought this film was far less sympathetic? He thought it was actually a sort of one-dimensional condemnation of the entire proletariat. Can you believe that?
Owen Jones, friend of the working class.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like Owen is painting with a very broad brush there, because I know plenty of working class people, and working class people are not just one and all chavs. There's a difference between working class, as in people who actually work, and the benefit scrounging underclass. Because think maybe 10, 15 years ago, think back to that time when the Daily Mail, for instance, would every single day there'd be a front page headline saying, benefit scrounging mum claims £500,000 for popping out 13 kids. Those are the sorts who would end up like these kids. Like actual working class people tend to be good people.
Yeah, my family came from like Kidbrooke Estates and the East End, and they actually worked their way up to be able to own their own homes. Whenever anyone accuses me of being posh online, I say you really don't know where I came from. None of them are scumbags like this that look like Sid the Sloth. Thank you very much.
Savage. I can read a little bit from Owen Jones if you want. He was so incensed that he wrote about this in his wonderful book Chavs. I was going to read the bit where he talks about getting cucked, but I couldn't find that in time.
That's why he's gay, isn't it?
That's not real, I will say. But
is it not?
No, that was a fake quote. That was a fake quote.
It's not real. However, at Conservative Party conference, he did say hello to me, and I was like, "Oh, do you want to have a chat?" He went, "Sorry, mate, I've got to work." So he is a cuck in real life. So.
Oh my goodness, I want to see that conversation. Oh dear. All right. Oh, are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
We're going to do story time.
All right, sorry. So Owen, let's see. But modern. So quoting from Chavs, page 130. If you want to verify, this isn't made up like the cut quote. It's very funny though. But modern entertainment does not encourage us only to laugh at the Chavs. It also wants us to be afraid of them. There is no more extreme example of this than the film Eden Lake. It talks about the plot, and then after the couple stand up to some local semi-feral aggressive dog-owning kids, they are mercilessly hunted down and tortured. Under the direction of the psychopathic ringleader, the kids use their mobile phones to film the boyfriend being slashed with knives before his body is burned. But perhaps the most disturbing is the role of the parents, waitresses, painters, decorators, and so on, who routinely swear and slap their kids about. In a shocking finale, it is they who apparently torture the girlfriend to death after she kills a couple of the Chavs in revenge. When I asked the director, James Watkins, for an interview, I was told he was very flattered, but he doesn't want to impose any authorial or interpretations on Eden Lake, preferring instead the wildly divergent reaction to the film. Chad reaction from James Watkins.
Yeah. Step over. Yeah.
No, kind sir, I will not be stitched up. Yeah, so yes. Owen Jones, not a fan. It may not come as a surprise, he writes, that the Daily Mail treated Eden Lake as though it was some sort of drama documentary, quavering that it was all too real and urging every politician to watch it.
I mean,
mad.
Where's the lie?
Yes. Where is the lie indeed? Where is the lie? I'm going to put it out here like this is aged extremely well.
Oh my god,
and
absolutely.
If anything, it's too sympathetic. It's pulling its punches in a few key ways.
And the thing is, he's criticising the fact that people would laugh at Chavs like we weren't watching Jeremy Kyle for the last 15 years, you know?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The other thing is as well, this was 3 years away from the London riots and 15 years away from Mizzy. So it's incredibly pertinent.
Oh, God, Mizzy.
Well, yeah, but Mizzy was making money and getting clout off of wanton acts of random criminality. And what happened? The mainstream media puts him on TV like some kind of circus, and he doesn't even get properly prosecuted for it.
Chat, I'm going to need an S in the chat for slippery slope, if you don't mind.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, like, S to spit at Owen Jones.
Harry, you'd probably like that from us.
Yeah.
I'm really biting comments. I'm holding back jokes about Owen Jones spitting before getting pounded. But
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Well, you didn't hold back then, did you?
in a street
Neither did
assault,
he.
which we naturally condemn, obviously. Anyway, this used to be such a family-friendly stream. Let's see. I like this bit where after, the kind of weak thing where she stabs Thomas Turgoose, the littlest guy, and we're meant to feel, lots of S's. I love to see it, guys. Well done. Yes.
And then for Richard, but I think his finger slipped.
Richard, we can't all make a tower. We try. Only you can
Richard
make
in
the
chat
tower.
earlier said that he is black, so he's allowed to post that letter.
He has given me a pass before.
Good man.
I'm saving it up. 10k special. I'm going to cash it in, Richard.
No.
And
Don't
salute.
make that promise.
All right. I wanted to sort of go to one particular scene.
Oh, GB.
Oh no, Mr. GB. I cannot put that comment on screen. Absolutely degenerate. I wanted to highlight this scene in particular, and I see. Sorry, I've mangled this, folks, because I resized it for Owen Jones' book. There we go. That looks better. I wanted to talk about this this scene in particular, which is early on. They come to a pub. The guy's a bit too posh to get served. And there's a kid misbehaving, and the reaction to this was the teacher says, "Poor little Mike, up past their bedtime." She's gone the sympathetic route, right? Teacher mode engaged. And he says, "God, I wish someone would just slap." And then the kid gets belted, and they're suddenly like, ooh, harsh reality. I really wanted to know what you guys thought of this scene, because this one is I think kind of the standout to me. So, Connor, if you'd like to go first, if you wouldn't mind, if you've got a
I
take
have
on it.
thoughts on this actually. And I, to some people's surprise, perhaps I'm going to side with her, and it's because the soft approach is a late intervention from her. That's why it doesn't work with these kids. But it should have come from the parents in the first place. And part of the problem is the soft approach is coming from an institution that's severing the children from their parents, when the parents themselves should not be behaving like this and should be spending a lot more time with them. Stefan Molyneux's quite good on this, where he repeatedly, based on his own quite violent childhood, talks to people who have complex issues in their lives and made terrible decisions, whether violent or just the social mistakes, and he always traces it back to their early childhood. It's either neglect or physical abuse, and they often internalize these things as a means of conflict resolution. So for example, if you ever get in a disagreement and your parent slaps you, then you're more likely to use violence to get your way, because that's just the model that you've learned. And so this is showing that despite the de facto knowledge from Fassbender's character is, spare the rod, spoil the child. Actually, these kids are created that way because there is a cycle of violence and abuse within these households. For that to be broken, that's the only way you get out of it. But you're not going to break it with the school system either, because the school system is woefully insufficient.
Interesting. That is not the take I had, but I like it. Yeah.
I'm just going to come out and say it. The mother did nothing wrong.
Nah, I
Bloody hell.
highly disagree. Highly
No,
disagree.
no. I mean, again, this might just be an age thing, but you know what? When I was growing up, if you acted out of line, you got a slap. And the thing is, the reaction from Jenny is completely contrast to how it was back in my day. You know, the mother would do, you know, whack their kid who was misbehaving. Kid would fall in line, and parents would be like, "Good job." Nowadays, you get like judgmental looks like this from people who think, you know, motherless children who think that they would be able to control them. Essentially, people who watch too much Super Nanny for a living and think that they'd be able to raise the perfect child because they could mispronounce unacceptable, and not realizing. Oh, I hear you scoffing. I hear you.
No, it's
honestly.
not scoffing,
and it's not. But I like full disclosure, right? I don't discipline my children in that way. But that's because my children don't, and I'm not, you know, I'm not saying my children are absolute angels, but they don't act in a way that would warrant anything like that, if that makes sense. And
there's
also
a
from a legal perspective, obviously we don't as well. But what I'm saying is, as a child, you know, if I stepped out of line, my mum would whack me, my nan would whack me, my dad would probably go further than that, and I don't believe that sort of reaction, because it was always from a place. It sounds silly, but it was always from a place of love. Like you,
that doesn't sit well with me at all. And the reason is, I always look at it as if, and this is the philosophy I'm going to employ. Your children can never choose you, so you have to parent them in such a way that if they were to be able to choose their parents, they would have chosen you. And so punishment should always be proportionate, and you need to instill a moral conscience in them where they police themselves rather than just fearing repercussions, because otherwise every law will just be something they can circumvent in order to get their way. And this is why these kids don't have a conscience, because unless they don't fear him physically, therefore they mistreat him physically, but they fear their dad, so they won't circumvent the dad. So if everything is relative to violence, that's why they're little shits. Whereas if the dad wasn't beating the kids and actually, well, obviously, you know, he's not that intelligent, but if he brought them up with a conscience, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
Let me just be clear. This specific moment, the kid's getting like corrected. That to me, I mean, there's a difference between like a few warnings and then a smack, stop it, and then obviously, you know, the absolute senseless beating. You see that later on in the film clearly with Brett, that he is emulating a lot of his father's behaviour. Like his father quite clearly is violent. Yeah, yeah. You know, there obviously is there is obviously a line, but unfortunately over the years, what the government have done in particular is that they've blurred that line to a point where it's almost indistinguishable from what would be an acceptable form of chastisation and full-on abuse. Like you see that you talk about the schools. The schools now have less powers to discipline and enforce rules on children at this time in history than in the past ever. Like how you're absolutely right that the schools cannot intervene with the way that these children are raised and behave because they don't have any powers to influence that. The second that they and I speak as someone who knows people who work in that field, they can't do anything. Because the second they try to enforce things, they're told from the top down, you can't do that, you have to do this sort of stuff. You have to adhere to the child, you have to pander to the child in order for them, in order to essentially live a peaceful, have a peaceful existence. And other children suffer because of that. And
if you don't mind, if I
please, Harry,
please. A bit of what TCG is saying here, from my own experience, when I was younger, my dad never. He didn't give me a full-on slap round the face or anything like that. He actually had a very bad time of it from his own father when he was growing up. So he never wanted to do anything like that to me because he knew it didn't work if you just needlessly harsh on your son. But if I was acting out really badly, especially in public, he would give me the warning.
Yep.
And I would keep acting out. And he would give me the warning again and say, this is the last warning. And if I didn't stick to the warning, he would give me a sharp wrap around the knuckles or a slap on the wrist. Something to just give me a short start. so that I know that there is something backing up the authority. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much, especially with young boys, that you can do to verbally manipulate them and verbally reason with them into obeying your authority. When it comes down the line, eventually you need to let them know that the authority is backed up by something. And it shouldn't be a massive slap round the face like this woman gives, as far as I'm concerned, nor should it be anything like a closed fist.
Oh, yeah, no, okay.
Or anything that is ridiculously harsh. I think we all know that there is a massive line.
Oh,
say
yeah.
what I received, where it would be maybe just a slap round the back of the knee, or a slap on the hand, a rap on the knuckles, something that's not going to give any lasting damage. It's just going to be a sharp stop to let you know that, no, there is consequences for this. And then if that didn't work, then he would go to the, right, we're going to take this away from you. You're not going to get your television. You're not going to get your game. You know, because it was the last point before they started taking away things from me to just let me know authority matters. There is something backing up this authority. Just to remind me, I'm a lot bigger than you right now. So there's very little that you can do if push came to shove about it. And I think that's where the line should be personally. And with this, once again, I think with this scene, I thought this was probably the only really effective scene for me in the film. The interesting thing was just we often, I think we've all been in Steve's situation here, where we're sat and there's a misbehaving child, and you're at the end of your tether trying to enjoy yourself, and you just think, God, if only something was done. And it's the contrast between the idleness of the way those thoughts wander into your mouth and you even say them out loud, contrasted with just how sharply this particular family deals out those punishments, was very effective. And it was probably the only part of the film that really did work for me in that way.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know if it's just because I'm a parent myself, but I find that myself being very effective at tuning out situations like that, because the thing is, I know what it's like to be if your kids are playing up, you know. I know what it must feel like to have people sort of doing that kind of judgmental sort of looks and things like that. So I try and avoid that where possible, because I don't know what the situations are. And I think just these two being, you know, the old judgmental type, you know, just watching the situation unfold and almost, you know, with the judgmental, it kind of annoyed me a little bit, because I mean, they don't know. Yeah, for all seriousness, like the slap in the face was way too much. Like, you know, like a back of the leg job maybe, or, you know, and not in like harsh or anything like that, but just no.
Once again, it's just something to reinforce that your authority is backed up by something.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, kids are designed to push the boundaries, and they will push and push and push and push. And if you don't show them that there is a line, then they'll go crazy.
Yeah,
there's a lot of mixed takes on the panel.
White
a
Heart
lot
in
of
the comments.
mixed takes in the chat as well. If I may, like, I think the TCG. Sorry, I mean, I was trying to take it all in. TCG. I think you said there's a thing about the schools. Basically, there's a thing when if they realize that adults just can't do anything, it's like unlocking God mode. They might as well get IDDQD tattooed on them. Yeah, they can go crazy. But
kids are not stupid. Like, they know. Like, they know when an adult holds no authority over them. They know when an adult cannot do anything to them if they act out of step. Like, where are the consequences for their actions? Like, do they care if they miss a little bit of playtime? Do they, you know, because what are they going to do? Well, they'll just carry on acting out. Like, there's no real consequence. I mean, the main consequence these days in schools is now expulsion. But the kid doesn't want to be there anyway, so to them that's just a reward for that. That's just a reward for that, you know.
I was going to say, as much as I like someone just kind of saying no to the state and realizing it has no power, you know, I like that. On the downside, there are social implications, and something I took from this was, and I'm fascinated by you guys are fascinated by the direction you took it, and that's amazing. I kind of thought of this in the context of the rest of the film, was basically that there's a middle class distancing from very sharp realities, and this film again I see is like pushing you close to the things you've been able to try and get yourself away from.
I mean,
And
it's
so
yeah.
this thing of saying, "God, I wish she'd slap him." You are not prepared for when she actually slaps him. You're not prepared for what that actually looks like.
Yeah.
And they're both a bit shocked, and they realize, oh, this is a bit much for me. And they'll see later on, they just are not equipped to handle this life. You know, they don't have the. I mean,
well, it's almost like a culture shock, isn't it? I mean, you are essentially looking at two different cultures interacting here, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And in fact, the NREAB, great you've highlighted that, because essentially they try that soft approach with the kids later at the lake when he's like, "Can you turn the radio?" And like they know he can't do anything, and he he makes it clear that he isn't going to do anything, because he tries to reason with them, and at that moment the Chavs are like, yeah, we can do what we want. I mean, like even going as far as like eyeing her up through the eyeing up Jenny through the telescope. Like the kid even whips his knob out. Yeah. Brett even whips his he's cock-a-doodle out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And and
unexpected.
Steve does nothing.
I didn't need that scene
but I don't think anybody did. It just makes me wonder whether the BBC financed some part of that film, but we'll save that speculation for later. But yeah, Steve did nothing at that point either, and it's like that they are completely crossing the boundaries, but they know they can because there's kids, and there is that social stigma of if they're not your kids, you can't be telling them.
Do you remember what the girl says to him?
I think you've got to remember as well that even though they're a lot younger than you, strength in numbers means that if he had tried anything, they still could have overwhelmed him.
Probably. Yeah,
it's
probably.
like that. For me, I look at a group like that and I immediately think knives. Where are they hiding knives? And I wouldn't mess with them purely because of that.
Exactly. So rather than confront them, exactly, and you're absolutely right, because I'm sitting there watching it. I'm sitting there watching this. It's like, all right, it's like the old, you got beat up by a girl, or you got beat up by kids. It's like, but if there's like 6 or 7 of them, like you're absolutely right. There's strength in numbers, and rather than just sort of confront them, if you're not prepared to deal with the fallout, move away. Go to a different part. It's a big lake. You can propose to it. If your main mission is to propose, there is plenty of opportunity to do that elsewhere. You don't have to be around these kids.
Get it done. And as soon as you realise that this is where they hang out regularly,
this is territorial.
Go back there.
Yeah, this is territorial as well. This ain't your yard. This is their yard as far as they're concerned, and you're encroaching on their space. Regardless of whether it's public or not. Them's the rules,
Would it be weird for me to say, like, I found this, like, the scene at the pub and this scene where he confronts them to be, like, the most effective scares in the whole film?
It's also interesting.
Until the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting as well, later that night when they're back in their room, they can hear an adult couple arguing. And Jenny jokes to him, oh, you should go out there and sort him out. And he's like, nah, it's all right.
Yeah, with proper horror show, what you were saying, that these 2 scenes were the only ones that really, for me, built effective tension. And then it was really after this scene when he decided to go into the house that I lost any and all sympathy and respect for him, because my brain just clicked and went, oh, you're an idiot.
Yeah, that scene was absolutely
You're
nonsense.
a moron. You have a death wish. Okay, I no longer feel any empathy towards
No. Hi, Owen.
No. What up, Owen? How's it
watching,
going,
Owen?
man?
Connor still wants that interview.
Connor wants to know what you think of...
my boy. Oh, dear, where are we? Yeah. I love this scene because, like, we've basically been in this scene. Like, I'm assuming all of us have kind of had this conversation, except obviously I backed out of this way before he did. And it's just this thing of when he speaks to the guy, the main guy played by Jack O'Connell, and he just cannot communicate with him. when
No.
he's just saying, "Can't hear you, mate." It's like, how do you deal with that?
But again, it goes back to like the cultures. It's
Yeah.
two different cultures. It is, almost like a metaphorical way of showing that they are essentially speaking two different languages. Like, because the kid only recognises violence and authority, and strength in that regard, and what he is seeing in front of him is a guy being passive.
Yeah, the guy who doesn't need to be violent or imposing or strong because he's living in comfortable, urbanized London doesn't understand that you can't reason your way through something.
No.
So the phrase "civilization is incommunicable" does spring to mind here.
Yeah. It's, I mean, to divert from it slightly, when we were chatting about this, Connor, I think you phrased in a really interesting way. You said it was unnerving. I really like that description. Did you want to sort of describe that a bit, that feeling of watching it? About what was it that made it so unnerving to you?
I think it was the undeservedness of the protagonist to be preyed upon. And then that grew into a kind of frustration from a male perspective of how lacking he was in risk calculation. And he is deliberately endangering the woman that he purports to care about. So it was seeing him making so many obviously avoidable mistakes and then leading to a very visceral and realistic form of violence that just made me need to stop it. I can't describe it properly other than it was so uncomfortable to watch someone be so realistically stupid and suicidal that way.
It's so good that you mentioned about Jenny and how it's his duty to protect her, because it's absolutely right that in some circumstances, in order to protect someone, the best thing to do is to not engage, almost like to retreat, and he just fails to do that. And Jenny even prompts him several times, like, we can go somewhere else, like, it's not a problem. And he's like, well, no, I got here first. It's like, now who's the child? Oh, I got here first. Like, no, dude, she's essentially giving you permission to be like, back down, like, it's fine. And he still has this sort of mentality that no, we're fine, there's nothing to worry about.
There was this TikTok tweeted out a little while ago.
Virtue in stupidity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There was a TikTok tweet out a little while ago. Was a guy walking hand in hand with his girlfriend in the mall, and it was like the inside of her head. She was just humming and looking at the various shops.
Oh, I've seen this. Yeah.
And in his head, he was thinking, right, so there's a pillar to my right, so that area is covered. There's a couple of exits over there. That guy looks kind of shifty, and it's just I just tweeted out, all men think this way. But as you're walking down the street, if you're hand in hand with your missus, and she might accuse you of like not listening to her, or you're stressed when you're traveling, or you're distracted, you're not that present. And it's just that you are thinking, okay, who's around me? Where are the exits? Am I able to get up from this seat? It's just we are on threat monitoring 24/7.
Sometimes I'll be in public and I will tell my missus to, oh, we need to go over here. We need to go over here. You stand over here. You stand on this side of me. And she won't understand why. And it will be because I've spotted somebody who's a bit shifty, maybe, and I just want to put myself between her and that shifty person, just in case. And the fact that he didn't do that, the fact that because people think that women, when they're looking for what they're looking for in a man, is somebody who's strong, somebody who's really strong. That's not all they're looking for. They're also looking for somebody who can protect them first and foremost. And protecting them is not necessarily going and just starting unnecessary fights. Protecting them is sometimes just making the smart decision.
Vigilance.
And also, I don't know whether this was intentional from James Watkins or not, but if you look at the positioning of the players in this scene, you've got the teenagers at the far side, and then you've got Jenny that's actually in the middle, and then Steve, who is the furthest away. So he's not in a position where he can essentially protect Jenny should they approach. She's exposed to them. He's not putting himself in front of, like, I'm air quoting here, but danger. He's removing himself whilst also being dismissive about, no, it's not a threat. Don't worry, darling. Like, It's not
Yeah,
great.
he is completely, how can I say, naive to it.
Like he even leaves her alone while he goes off scuba diving. While they're still there, it's like, what are you on, man?
He's made to carry the idiot ball, as they say on the old TV tropes. But yeah,
it annoyed me that the sequence of events of this film felt like, if you're going to go with the TV tropes, it felt like an idiot plot, where things only happen because everybody in the plot is stupid.
I mean, I don't doubt that there are people out there that would have that level of egotism, that they would think that they're indestructible and are perhaps naive to think that a group of teenagers wouldn't do anything. Because I mean, the guy, I mean, Michael Fassbender is a geezer in shape, but he probably thinks that he is, physically.
Oh, he's in really skinny shape though. He doesn't look physically imposing.
Well, I mean, he might feel like he is imposing enough.
He doesn't. I don't look at Michael Fassbender here and think, "Oh, best not mess with him."
I'm not saying you, but I'm saying he probably. That's what I'm saying. The ego, the narcissism. He's probably thinking to himself, "I am intimidating enough that these children aren't going to do anything." Like that's what I'm saying. Like he's so blinded by.
You know what kind of shape he looks like he's in?
Auto mode.
He looks in Owen Jones shape.
Oh no! Come on!
No, it's not that.
No way.
Maybe Owen Jones was watching this thing, thinking, "Oh no, it's me."
No, so as I've described before, Owen Jones looks like he's had his intestines vacuum packed. He's not in nearly the shape of Michael Fassbender. But I think that's actually the wrong framing. I don't think Fassbender's character thought he was intimidating at all. I think this is something that I've been debating this week. It's going to be a two-parter, but me, Carl, Josh, and Celios have all done a liberalism debate, and it got quite heated. And part of it was because we were trying to parcel out whether or not liberalism presumes reason is supreme above all else, to the detriment of other things. And I think he just thinks, if I can just be reasonable enough, everything's all right. Like no one in their right mind thinks I'm going to go over to a group of kids that are just absolute ne'er-do-wells, and if I politely ask them to turn their awful music down, because they know we're sat over there, so if they were going to be considerate, they'd already do it. That they do it. Like no one goes to the back of the bus when a bunch of school kids aren't using headphones and go, "Oh, sorry lads, can you tone down the Stormzy a little bit?" And they're going to go, "Yeah, sound mate. Sorry to inconvenience your journey." No one thinks that's going to happen unless you're so deluded into thinking that everyone around you is going to be convinced by conversation. So it's not that he thought he was physically imposing. He just thought, "Oh, I'll just talk them round to it." He just doesn't understand how violence operates because he hasn't had to.
Yeah.
See, once again,
that's how I see it. Sorry to cut you off, Harry. I paid so much attention before the violence started to what they said, and most of the time, Jenny was sort of going with the sympathy line, or just trying to ignore it. But the other half of the time, she'd kind of make an ironic thing, like, "Oh, charming," you know, or they'd do a kind of ironic distancing, as if they were watching a play and not like 20 meters from like savagery.
Yeah.
And it was denying the reality of it. It was protecting themselves from the fact that there was a real threat right next to them that they would have to deal with. And yeah, I'll just repeat, I think this film is like all about trying to push you to interact with that threat and see it for what it is. But also, before I go further, Dollface with a very niche reference here. Hear me out. Eden Lake equals Nuts in May horror remake.
I've not heard of that one.
That's over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, the nuts?
UO super fans most affected by that unexpected reference. I'll go with it. You know what? Since you've said that, I will note, folks, I do have to do this at some point in every stream. Getting out the old research. This being from 2008 means not many of my books reference it. But Kim Newman in Nightmare Movies in the new edition does dedicate a little bit of space for it. And he's weirdly complimentary. He's far more generous to Eden Lake than I expected. and he traces the influences of this film quite closely to Wes Craven. He's particularly Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes. And you can really see it.
I can see Hills Have Eyes, definitely.
Yeah, but almost sort of without the kind of topsy-turvy morality that Craven brings in a lot. It's more like uncomplicated here, that they should get their revenge, that they are okay to use violence, which I quite like. Yeah. So it's just a bit unexpected, but Kim Newman does talk about it at some length, which I appreciated. In terms of what made it so unsettling, I'll just throw out here something I found really disturbing. Well, two things. One is there was so much violence to animals in this film that I had largely not noticed or had screened out, because that's the kind of thing I struggle with. I know TCG, you hate injections.
Oh, I'm terrible with injections as well, man.
Oh, share your pain, my friend. Oh, it's horrible.
I have to cringe and look away whenever a needle goes into skin on screen.
Oh.
I can't do it.
Oh, I hear you, brother.
Yeah, for me, it's animals, and I just noticed on this time how many times, whether it was like smashing the stick insect in a jar that the little Indian kid in the England shirt had collected, or there's just when they go in the admittedly terrible scene where Steve breaks into the house, you just see them opening I assume it's a rabbit hutch.
I think it was, yeah.
We get no details. I want no details, but it's not going to be good. You also see them most notably badger baiting.
Yeah.
Well, I had a thought about this as possibly an extensive read, but if you've watched Clarkson's Farm, you know badgers are kind of a protected species. You can't really do anything about it.
They're a menace.
And yet, there's sort of an interesting thing that the Chavs are kicking the badger, and in the way they're kind of like the protected species themselves. I haven't fully thought that through, but I just thought it was interesting that it was a badger. Anyway.
They're committing a public service to local farms by doing this.
Oh, don't! I'm so torn. I'm pro badger, but I'm also pro my livestock not being killed. So
badgers are cute. Badgers are cute, and where my parents live, if you get up early enough, say 4 or 5 a.m., you can see them outside. But what they're doing outside is digging up your garden. So, bit torn.
True. Anyway, I just noted this. So that's part of the thing I found really difficult. But mostly it was just the thing that I found so difficult was basically what I would say is like this just total inversion of standards and morality. Just there was so much of this that was completely wrong. Like the adults should not be subordinate to the children. Like all normality is turned upside. The woman should not be rescuing the man. To an extent, my ingrained prejudice. There is the class element as well. Like it's this savagery taking over civilization. Every norm is inverted in this, and to me that is just so uncomfortable. Including the norm that you should be able to have a reasonable conversation, and you just can't. When you talk to someone and they aren't being reasonable, it's like I feel like I'm totally disarmed. Like, crikey, what am I meant to do now?
It is, kind of. So, again, looking at the sort of institutional critique thing I brought in earlier, the reason this whole class of children has been created is because the link between families and community pressure has been severed with institutional schooling, with the advent of cities and things like that. And the prole class that you've got here, the Chavs, are a fairly recent invention. Because you would not have had this in the feudal community. Like these kids would not be doing this. They would not have the free time to go around and be vagrants, and the parents would be working connected enough to them to instruct them. The kids would have had mentors inducting them into the family business rather than being these animal abusing ne'er-do-wells. And so all of
I love that word.
The savagery is kind of pre-civilization forming through the cracks of a maladapted class structure that has come about because we're not meant to live in this way. And the badger baiting thing is kind of a microcosm of that. It's related to the safety thing, because badger baiting isn't really a sensible way to deal with the badger problem. Like this is what Clarkson's Farm brings up. Yes, it's very dangerous if human beings are going to have a structured food supply. It's very dangerous to have the badgers around, and then the government to try and handle it with kid gloves and do it very bureaucratically and try and do it the most humane way possible, put them in the cage and putting them in reserve and whatever, and killing as few as possible. Actually, if anything, the kids are doing the natural thing. It's just against the civilizational norms. And this is the great discomfort, I think, that we're experiencing, because we have been so safe for so long. And even us sitting here that recognize the iron laws of politics are that at a certain point it's got to be backed up by force.
Yeah.
Our presupposition in a post-Blairite era is that we can talk out lots of things and resolve things through debate. And the fact that him trying to end him up in that situation is a startling realization for us, but it is also kind of true. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen once the petrol runs out and the food gets too expensive and all that. You're going to get roving bands of vagrants taking what they want, just like the kids that are frenzied into it on TikTok robbing Oxford Street.
Yeah. It's very notable that the reason they can get into that Eden Lake, is it's being developed. Like middle-class homes are going to go there because, frankly, people like me are trying to get out of the cities. And they're going to, and I think this is almost saying, like, you're going to encounter this stuff and you're going to have a hard meeting with reality. One that you've been able to avoid for a long time.
The chav is an urban animal just as much as the fox, right? Like they're attracted for the same incentive structures. And so that's going to be the native wildlife if you build it up and around that area. The chavs are not. This is something that I was talking to Harry about offline. By virtue of it being relatively affordable to move out to the middle of nowhere pre-2008 crash, the fact that it's being developed is why it attracts these types. If it was left to before cheap housing developments, you wouldn't get people of this character populating the area.
I do like your idea of them being an urban development and a modern development in particular. I think there's something about our system which has a sort of maladaptive altruism that means you can have this situation develop, basically. It would not be tolerated otherwise.
Well, there's no mass drug taking homeless class of that city to concentrate them in, for example.
True.
Like you don't get that sort of the parasitic, dependent, antisocial person in a small community that can police themselves. So the more strangers you pack in around each other in an economic opportunity zone, the more people that go there to extract unilaterally and just commit wanton destruction when they can't contribute.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I want to jump all over that, but anyone else? Harry?
No, it's all pretty reasonable so far. It ties into, I was actually reading Ed Dutton's book, Spiteful Mutants, earlier, and what Connor was saying there is quite relevant to things that he was saying about how within optimally organized societies, there's an optimum level of altruism for a certain level of group cohesion versus just suicidal tendencies of altruism, where you will throw away your own life on behalf of somebody of your out group just for the sake of virtue signaling. And I feel that there's something to be said that might be what Steve in this was doing to a certain extent. I'm going to show just how good I am by showing sympathy and showing that I can reason with these stupid children, these brutal children, and it got him killed, as it always does.
No, absolutely. I'm thinking of so many of the niceties that have built. I mean, like, this is why this film, I think, has aged amazingly. Even if, yes, it's guilty of many contrivances. it has aged so well because I'm thinking of things like, didn't we see that story of the guy who was originally from the Gambia, who'd busted in, done a crime that for YouTube purposes I must refer to as an intimate violation,
Ugh.
and then
Danger hug.
could not be deported because he relied on this country for healthcare.
Well, was there not a case in, was it Sweden or Denmark,
Oh,
I know what you're
where
gonna say.
a politician's daughter was violently assaulted by a migrant and then refused to allow him to be deported because she felt bad for him?
Yeah.
And she
I think it
wrote
was
an article
Sweden.
explaining why. That is suicidal altruism.
It's that kind of thing. You can have these very, how can I say, one segment of society can get itself largely in the driving seat and have these very high-end abstractions and ideals, but the totality of the society cannot be reflected by them. It will not serve you well. There will be a point where you say, no, I cannot apply, I can't give healthcare rights to this chap, for heaven's sake. You know, what are we doing here? Yeah. Many such cases like this, basically.
I'll see if I can send it to you because I actually have an amusing meme that sums this whole thing up, but you'll have to bear with me as I find it. So carry on talking about other things.
I'll go for it. I suppose it's just such a rich topic that it's kind of hard to keep on the film, but this is a bit where quite an amazing bit of gore that I found really, really hard to watch. And I was amazed that this did not get cut. For reference, if you are confused about that, there's about 3 minutes difference between the cinema release and the regular release, but that appears to be just a PAL conversion loss, which is something that's explaining quite a few differences in running time. But yeah, that I'm thinking of the bit where I think it is Thomas Turgoose's character sticks a switchblade in Steve's mouth.
Sorry, if you talk about cuts and things like that, I do think that the German video release got about 2 minutes cut from it.
Well,
but
of course it did. It's in Germany.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But they did get an uncut version later on, so it doesn't say what part was cut, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like I wouldn't be surprised if it was parts of this scene.
Yeah, Germany does have a far stricter censorship regime. Like the FSK 16 is considerably lighter than R18, and that's. I'm trying to remember if they had something after FSK 16, but
Although sadly, I've
Never mind.
still never had a warning from German Twitter when I've been posting, so I've obviously not been trying hard enough.
I'll
had a
forgive you a
few.
few phrases. Anyway, Harry, did you find the meme?
Here it is. It was on my phone, not my computer. I've just sent it to you on Twitter.
All right. Oh no.
You probably can't put it on the screen, but it's very funny.
I maybe no. I might have to play safe on that one, but thank you, chat and viewers, and including the people watching on the rewatch who I forgot to mention again until 1 hour 48 minutes again. Hi guys, if you got this far, let me assure you that it's a funny meme, and I can't put that on YouTube.
Only the best from me.
Oh, now I want to see it.
I'll share that around.
Forward it.
Yeah, share it around, pass it around.
It's along the lines of 14 heartbreaking photos that will make you say, forget having laws and borders and she. Yes.
Oh, I love those memes.
Good times. Oh, man. I was going to throw a question out here, and I'll see how this one goes. we've been talking about something that is incredibly politically loaded. It has only gotten more relevant, I would say. I mean, whoever brought up Mizzy kind of makes a case for me. Yeah, well done. I was going to ask if you thought that this film maybe in some way pulled its punches to be a little more palatable to the Guardian reading class.
In what way? As in the sort of softness that it dealt with how contemptible the children are? Because obviously she does weep and cry when she stabs that kid in the neck.
Yeah, she's been mixed on that. She does for little Thomas Turgoose, but then she quite determinedly plows down the girl whose name is Paige.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shift in reaction, I have to say, because I can kind of understand. I mean, obviously, you're in a situation now where it goes beyond the fact of adult-child sort of interactions. It's a survival situation now, so it is very much kill or be killed in that scenario. But I do still kind of understand how she would react to doing what she did, given that her role in life is to look after and care for children, and quite clearly she has failed in that moment, in that moment for that young lad. But then to just absolutely not give two stuffs when she mows down Paige. Either she's coped with it and dealt with it.
I clapped when I saw her get run over.
Listen, my dude, so did I. I'm not even, I was cheering. But
it might be a male-female thing.
Maybe. I mean, but I think, as the external sort of viewer looking in on it, you can kind of understand it for what it is in their situation. There might even be an element of like denial or like how have I got myself into this situation. I'm talking specifically the first killing. How has it come to this? It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be a nice weekend. I don't know, but I didn't cry for either child, I have to say.
Oh heck no.
I will say I don't think the ending was pulling its punches.
Well, maybe let's save that a bit. Possibly. Whenever you do this kind of interpretation, the danger is you're revealing a lot more about your own brain than the film, which is the danger. But I'll just put it out there, as you say. For a start, I'd say the threat from this kind of gang I don't necessarily associate with more rural areas. You could say that
was something for me. I looked at this and thought, this is far too nice an area.
Yeah.
For this to happen in.
Very
this
out of
should
place.
Be happening on the Eden Lake estate, really.
Yeah.
And part of that, I would say, there's also the makeup of the gang. In modern times, looks a little out of place. It's very.
If you're talking about what I think you are, when I was growing up, and around the time that this film came out, Chav gangs probably would have still been majority white.
Yeah.
Well, they were.
Agreed. Yeah.
They were in my area, basically.
Yeah, they were, because immigration levels weren't quite as high.
Yeah, this is 2008, but then this is still Blair era. In fact, did you enjoy Tony Blair being specifically named?
That's why I did mention Blairism. Yeah,
I didn't catch it.
Oh, you missed a bit of Dark Lord watch.
I've never been the most fervent watchman when it comes to the Dark Lord.
Yeah, I met him once. Somewhere, Sherry Blair and I have a picture together.
Did you wash the smell of sulphur off eventually?
Well, this was back in the day where I was very young and naive, and my nan was very much a Labourite, and
you thought things could only get better. Yeah.
I did, yeah. There is somewhere. I believe there is a picture on the internet, but unfortunately, in that particular photo, I'm not standing next to him. In that particular moment, but
I'd love that photo.
I skived the day off school to meet Blair, and my head teacher caught me on ITV. Actually meeting him. Yeah, I know.
You heard it here first. TCG went Greta mode.
Yeah, big time.
You explicitly skipped school to meet Tony Blair.
Yeah. I met John Prescott as well. That was that
equally disappointing.
I actually stormed his bus to get a picture, and the funny thing is, right, he didn't know, but apparently he didn't see, but apparently a few weeks later, or on that day, he got told by like his advisors, and my nan got a letter delivered. Posted to her flat, and inside was a letter from John Prescott, and it was so. Oh, I heard your grandson tried to take a picture of me. I'm so sorry, I couldn't. I wasn't available to do that. And then he left inside. He left like an A4 like portrait of him with his signature on it.
Oh my gosh! I'm trying to change your name to that.
Did he
Jags
keep them with him at all times?
Oh god!
My most adoring fan.
Yeah, apparently. Well, I mean, as I say, I was very young and naive then, and I'm more black-pilled on the overall situation these days. So, yeah.
One observation I will make about the locale of said gang, as someone who was not very rich growing up and couldn't afford to go on very many foreign holidays, you would see these types around caravan parks, and so I'm surprised that wasn't sort of one of the main things. Rather than a proper brick-built house or a council estate, you could have just had like the Coombe Haven equivalent Eden Lake holiday park right nearby. And that could have been where they came from. I think that would have been more realistic, frankly, because having a bunch of shitty little kids running around a clubhouse and then getting smacked while really bad bingo is being played is probably a bit more accurate.
Yeah, I can see it. Let's throw in another angle then. The fate of, I believe his name is Adam.
Mm-hmm.
He's the Indian chap in the England shirt who's collecting bugs. Just gonna say, like, we did highlight this at the start, that his method of execution with the tire around his head being set on fire is not typical of England.
No.
So we could how do we interpret that? Is that just a bravura moment? Is that trying to do something super memorable?
I just thought it was
Was
hilarious.
it trying to say something else?
I just thought it was hilarious at the fact that they tried restraining him with a tire. It felt very I want to say A-Team.
Honestly, the whole section of the film where they do this, for me, was the film massive, like more so than it already had, massively jumping the shark. As far as I'm concerned, because the kid just appears out of nowhere. He just returns, presumably because he's on the beck and call of these guys, and then they go, "Oh, I'm just imagining a conversation in my head. Do you mind just tracking down this girl for me? She'll be covered in blood and mud." And we want you to lead her to this secluded part of the forest where we will do something. And this Indian kid's just, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't see anything bad coming from this. Either that, or he's so desperate to be part of the group, he's more than willing to take part in an obvious crime. Either way, the kid is too stupid to live. So he was a cardboard cutout. So, oh well.
Can I just point out the comments are hilarious right now? Someone said, "What the Mandela effect you were expecting?"
My chat is mostly well behaved.
Well, they're just clearly well versed in those protest songs that say "kill the boa."
Oh,
Hey man, I was told by the ADL that that's purely metaphorical.
Yeah,
it's just a symbol, bro.
Mostly peaceful tire burnings.
Absolutely. These guys are so mostly peaceful. All right. Well, we did get around to the end, and I thought, let's see, when you have the final escape, and the final girl often escapes. You know, think of your Texas Chainsaw Massacre breaking out from the dangerous group in an absolute disheveled state, on your way to safety. Think of that kind of thing. And then stumbling on an area that is quite easy to recognize from Steve's ridiculous visit. If you've seen the film a few times, I'm wondering, did you guys pick up on this?
Yeah, I saw that golden architecture immediately.
You got it straight away. Okay.
I mainly thought, right, this film has been a sequence of terrible things happening. What would really twist the knife? What would really twist the knife? And I thought, obviously I know where this is. There's only, for a film as brutal as this, there's only one answer to where she would end up trying to find safety.
Mm.
Yeah, of course. There was only one house in the village, and she just happened to find it.
No, she didn't just happen to find it. She happened to crash into it.
That's right. Yes, of course.
In the car of one of the children who lives there.
That's right.
One of the boys who lives there, because he's like maybe in his early 20s, the older brother.
What was the name of the dad? Is it? Oh God, what was his name? Because it was quite funny when you just hear him go. I can't even remember that. Like, just say, Harry, what are you doing with that bloody car? I'm gonna kill him.
God, I'm trying to get it. I can't find it. They're all just credited as like Brett, Adam, Cooper, Reese, John. I don't know.
Half of them haven't got faces.
Average Stella drinker.
Oh, it might have
Basically.
been Reese, I think, maybe. I think it might have been Reese.
It could have been. Yeah.
Alternative ending, she ended up in AA's lodge.
her Carl and AA are just drinking caramel schnapps.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Who got the sofa that time? We never found out. Dusty sofa.
None of them did.
Oh, crikey. Yeah, I mean, you could put this out there. How easy would it have been for them to do a kind of cop-out ending of some kind, kind underclass take her in, which they're kind of leaning on a bit, and then just to try and say, look, there's no problem, it's fine, hashtag
no, they're all evil.
I mean, like, legitimately, hashtag not all, but we're talking about a very clear distinction between chavs and working class. Like, we're all there, right?
I don't know if that would have been. I don't know if that would have been easy. Actually, I think the ending they went with was probably the easiest one, which is like the most shocking option.
Interesting.
Also, I found that it didn't. I understand the emotion in the moment for the characters would lead them to do something stupid. But that little garden party she accidentally bursts in on, has a lot more people than just those who are in the house at the end of it. So presumably this was maybe a neighborhood party. So people are going to start asking questions after this. And not everybody involved in this little town is going to keep their mouths shut. And also, these kids didn't just brutalize and murder 2 people from out of town. They burnt to death a local kid as well. So if any of these people think they're getting away with it for more than a week, they're deluded. But then again, they're supposed to be borderline developmental problems. So maybe they don't realize.
I think the thing is going to be that they blame it all on the couple that came from out of town, because obviously the kids are dead and the Indian kid's dead as well. So they're just going to say, "Oh, this is I don't know. It was Bonnie and Clyde 2.0 that did it."
Yeah.
This incredibly mild-mannered couple of a school teacher and some other guy just happened to go psycho on our delinquent children for no reason.
Yeah,
hold on. Let me question. I think you may be falling into a trap there. Like, you might be doing a Steve there, Harry. Like the idea that these people are being reasonable. I mean, this comes up a lot. Like,
oh no, I'm not saying that they're. Once again, I'm not saying that they're being reasonable. I'm not expecting them all to be reasonable. I'm just saying everybody in this film is an idiot, and I feel nothing for them.
Fair enough. I'm just thinking, I watch a lot of Actual Justice Warrior, and he highlights all these criminals making really stupid decisions, and he did a really good job of pointing out once that a lot of people who are having conversations like this will say, why the heck would someone get bailed out of the police station or just released on no bail, then immediately steal a car and drive it 2 miles? And that's
Socioeconomic factors.
purely socioeconomic factors. Yes, they aren't thinking about it the way we are, and possibly this group are not thinking about it. Like this guy's punched a hole. The dad there. When we first see the house, we see that he's punched a hole through a door. I mean, I think it's a good indication of like this guy's.
Well, I mean, we've all been a
not
few too
thinking
many
things
monsters
through.
down.
Yeah, he was just playing Starfield, and then he saw that pronoun option,
Ooh,
and he
there's your
couldn't
first
take it
mistake.
anymore.
Yeah, Harry's done some mental things with that fast.
Boring.
I want to get Az on the stream one day. I love that guy.
I like Az.
Bless. Okay, fair enough. I mean, yeah, this would not work if the police gave a damn. If the police looked into this, I doubt they would be surprised. But I've got to say, like, for me, this landed so hard. This refusal to let her out, the fact that we don't see her killed, we just know what's going to happen. This really hit home for me. That we didn't have any final show of brutality. It was just left to the imagination. And it also ends like implying he gets away with it, which obviously we can doubt. But I only noticed it this time. I've watched this movie about 4 times, 5 times maybe. I only noticed this time that it's at the very end that Brett looks directly in the camera. Like, he's looking at the mirror for most of it, but in the last second, he looks directly at you in the camera, as if sort of challenging you, like, you, the viewer, what do you think of this? What are you going to do about this?
Imagine if this film had inspired anti-chav pogroms.
Can you imagine?
Like, can you actually imagine if it had? If people had watched this, come out of the cinema and gone and just found their closest Brett or Mizzy, and just.
But that's actually quite funny though, because like Brett or Mizzy, they are very distinctive because one has displaced the other. Because you don't see Chavs in nearly the numbers now that you used to.
That's true.
No,
that's true. That they've been really relegated and sidelined. Even our thugs aren't even our national thugs anymore. Country's going to the dogs.
Well, I think it's probably because Gen Z don't have the selection pressure to spend the time on the street socializing. I think they're just all on bloody TikTok and things like that. So because we've digitized social interaction, there isn't actually much on the street delinquency anymore.
Yeah.
Not from the natives.
No, not from the natives. Exactly.
No, the chav phenomena seems to be was strongest in my memory when you wouldn't be interneting much.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't be out.
The generation with the chavs.
Yeah, to an extent, you had mobiles and SMS, but that would be good enough to just sort of get you to a place to meet up.
Yeah.
But you'd still be doing it all in person.
We're talking very. I would say like pre MySpace. We feel nostalgic.
Return to Burberry with a V.
Yes.
Unironically, Mr. Gently Benevolent. Yes.
Yes. They may have been the Ashes, but.
They were our Ashes, damn it.
It keeps getting worse.
Brett was our Fresh Prince.
Yes.
Return to Brett.
Oh, no. Oh, dear. Yeah, Brett the Hitman, but he did have heart, in a way.
Oh, God. I might just disconnect now.
Oh, sorry. I mean, if this is a confrontation to the viewer, a thing of what are you going to do about it? You've now seen this. What are you going to do? In light of, some of the things mentioned here, Tony Blair's prevent agenda. Well, we know how that went. The tough on crime, tough on the cause of crime, we know how that went. it still feels pretty powerful. Like this film to me feels like it's offering a challenge. Oh, Bilbao, comment of the night.
Giga Chav, nice.
Nice, very nice. Yep. If this is a challenge, I think it still has not been answered, and the problem has intensified.
I think it will intensify because, much like mass immigration, the state can do something about it at any time, but the perpetuation of a problem, the creation of one, justifies the continued expansion of the state, which is the state's express goal. So, my friend Mary wrote a very good piece for Unheard recently, saying that value pluralism and multiculturalism are in direct contention with lax policing and the classic British bobby. Because if you have disaggregated communities compiled into an economic opportunity zone like a city or a developing settlement like Eden Lake, eventually what happens is community tensions bubble up and boil over, but liberalism commands that you ignore them. And so you need an increasingly heavy-handed bureaucratic mediator to play favorites in order to try and keep them in some sort of cohesion where the messaging can still land that diversity is our strength. And so, yeah, the issue will never get solved because it justifies the expansion of the surveillance state to keep peddling their propaganda and foster dependency in the law-abiding population that are constantly afraid of both the criminals and the arbitrary application of the law.
Well, interestingly, there is a much simpler application of state power that doesn't justify the surveillance state, which is exactly why they wouldn't do it for this. Because you mentioned the tough on the causes of crime, and Connor mentioned the bobbies on the beat. I recently got done reading Peter Hitchens' Abolition of Liberty, and in that he discusses... Pardon?
A fine book.
A very fine book. And in that he explains the change of the British policing system from the Bobby on the beat system that lasted up until about the mid-1960s and then carried on in dribs and drabs here and there into the current system that we have right now of the more militarized police force that's more of a response system. And I was thinking most of the way through this, if there was an old-fashioned localized police force that wasn't one of the large centralized police forces, and they would just have the old-fashioned classic Bobby on the beat doing his rounds, making sure that he hit every part of his round every 10 to 15 minutes or so, they probably wouldn't have been the sorts of conditions to allow for Brett and his gang to start making trouble the way they did in the first place. So if the police had been, as they were originally supposed to, deployed as a preventative force rather than a responsive force, then we wouldn't have a problem like this film is highlighting in the first place.
I'm incredibly sympathetic to that.
My only pushback to that would be just the location at which it's taking place. Like, you could argue that maybe they do have a kind of system like that in their small little village, and so they go out of the village to express themselves, shall we say?
Well, I think I don't know where the sort of environment Proper Horror Show grew up in, but I think I'm probably the one who grew up in an area closest in style to the one that's depicted in this film. The town over from where I grew up, Nantwich, is somewhere I always go on about because I love it. Occasionally, you'll get police officers walking the streets, and it does make sure that it's a more peaceful place than a lot of places would be. But still, you don't get that same system that it used to be, where it'd be every 10 to 15 minutes, the Bobby shows up on his route. He gets to know everybody who's local. Like, I know some of the police officers that patrol those areas when they do.
Yeah.
But even then, I only know them because I already knew them. They're so infrequently there because most of the time they're cruising the streets in the police car, which is a much more disconnected version of policing.
Yeah. That Hitchens book also highlights the thing of assuming a certain class of people who had influence assumed that a lot more things could be solved by reason, and assumed a lot of the criminals were like them and would respond to lessons in Greek pottery and would turn it around, which is a great point, I thought. Connor, something you said, I thought bringing in liberalism was really interesting because when I was watching Steve confront them, it kind of reminded me of the Just Oil protesters. Channel members will know I have a video on this which you can enjoy and look up if you're a member of the channel. But it was basically, it highlighted a situation that under liberalism, literally what can you do? What can Steve do if they park up next to him and Blair Drill rap at him? What can he do? What can you do when a Just Oil protester stops you in front of your van? You can't physically move them. You have to immediately just appeal to a higher authority. Because all that autonomy is taken out of your hands. It's immediately, the state's decision and no one else's.
Well, it's also the state's decision because you can't go beyond dialogue because it presumes a fundamental rational sameness about everyone. And if they're somehow incapable of accessing the rational sameness, it's not because of inherent moral fault to them or some kind of impaired intellectual deficiency that you can never get over. It's just because they didn't have enough youth clubs or they weren't properly educated in the right way. That's why there's the focus on education in the start in that radio conversations. It's is the government tackling this issue correctly from a social mobility and social planning angle? Are we achieving progressivism fast enough? Or is there something fundamental we don't want to admit? And is it that there are just some people that are such moral reprobates that you can't talk them round, you just have to deal with them, which is why she's kind of justified in running that girl down.
Based.
I mean, they only respond to force because it's all they know. Some of these people.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree.
I think it's not unfair for it to show that Brett was the big leader and that a lot of the kids were influenced. I'm quite sympathetic to the idea that if you took care of the Bretts, the Rickies and so on could have been influenced in a better direction.
Sure.
Are they going to be self-directed, moral, upstanding members of society? No. But would they be regular dudes who were able to hold down a job and like to pint and just kind of got along? Probably.
This is why I'm saying that this class only exists because of certain urban transformations. Most people do not follow ideas, they follow incentives. And so if the person exerting the most force in their little circle is setting the incentive to follow them because that's the easiest path to affirmation and power, which they aren't getting from their abusive homes, then they're going to follow him. If you take him out and provide them with some sort of social safety net, if the parents provide them with more constructive pathways to grow up properly, then yeah, they'll just fall in line.
Nice.
As it stands, though, they did go along with burning a child to death. So whether or not they'd have been nice, good boys who did do nothing wrong before Brett's influence, the decisions have been made.
Ending his political career before it started. Sad.
And it should be noted as well that not all of the kids were as reluctant as some of the others.
Yes.
True.
You know, Paige was one of them. She was quite up for it.
She only legged it when she realised that her own life was in danger after
exactly.
The other one.
Yeah. Was it Mark, the other one? The other kid
so.
with the...
Like after Dopey Face dies, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to run away. I'm going to call the police," and he gets beaten to death. And then she legs it when she thinks, "Oh, he'll hurt me as well."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm thinking of the black kid?
Oh yeah.
He was
eager for it. He barely says a word.
He barely says a Yeah,
he's one of the first to get a knife out. I think he starred in another one of these films, by the way.
I think he was in Attack the Block.
Was it Jermaine Hunter?
Jermaine Hunter. Yeah, no, he's in one of the smaller ones. It was mentioned in. He was mentioned in Nightmare Movies. Was he in that as well? I'm gonna look him up.
Yeah, I googled him yesterday because I recognised him.
He was in Attack the Block. It looks like.
Yeah, he's not even on the Wikipedia. It's Jermaine Hunter, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just looking at his IMDb.
We're furiously googling.
Yeah.
Can we confirm?
Attack the Block.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, quite slim IMDb.
Who was he in that then?
He was Hi-Hats, apparently.
What, the rapper?
Apparently, I've not seen it.
Yeah, he was. Bloody hell! Yeah, he was the crazy rapper whose mates get killed in the in the elevator, and he's hunting down the main group of Utes. So he's the insane drill rapper, basically.
Oh, there you go.
So he's being typecast.
Oh, in fairness, Jack O'Connell ended up starring in Harry Brown after this, so you gotta go where the money is for the most part.
Hey, if they're willing to pay,
crikey!
Please nobody clip that.
Oh no! Well, before we get deeper into the depths of clippable material, I'd say we'll probably could do with rounding off if you guys are okay to keep on the right side of Super Nanny. Ending before the 2.5 hour mark?
Yeah, works for me.
Sure.
Go for it.
Sweet. All right. Well, folks, I hope you managed your homework. It was 90 minutes. It's a tough 90 minutes, but if you watched it, we'd like to see the scores coming out in the usual out of 12 burgers format that we know and love. And while you're doing that, I will... the calls for Shrek every week. I know I'm missing something. Do I need to go on Know Your Meme or something, White Heart? Honestly.
Well, Shrek is love and Shrek is life, so he's kind of all encompassing.
Oh, please. White Heart just wants you to review Shrek.
I'm shocked that was up on YouTube for as long as it was.
I never even watched it. I've still not watched it. I just know about it through cultural osmosis.
Dear. All right, well, let's move away from Shrek. Folks, we'll go for closing thoughts and scores out of 12. TCG, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 12. Plenty of ketchup. Flame grilled steak. I do like the. I thought the effects, the makeup, the gore elements were pretty good, and the story was relatively simple for a simpleton like myself to keep up with. But I do agree with Harry in that the characters were very sort of one-dimensional in terms of their aims and objectives, and I think we unanimously agreed that Steve was absolutely stupid and could have avoided this whole situation had he just decided to move to a different area of the lake. So yeah, but I'd give it an 8 out of 12.
I think that's fair. It's fair. I want to argue against the Steve is an idiot thing, but I can't.
It just felt so frustrating. Like, again, sitting there watching it, I was just thinking, because I from what I remembered when I first watched it all those years ago, I was like, I'm sure like he did something that caused it all to kick off, and then obviously you find out he accidentally kills a dog. But it's just the fact that he just didn't put his ego to one side, or he just didn't really sort of assess the situation correctly, I suppose is the best way to put it, and just think, do you know what, it's not worth it. Let's just go somewhere. I'm with my missus and should really be thinking about keeping her safe as well. You could just tell the cogs weren't turning. Yeah, it was quite frustrating.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. 8.
But then you wouldn't get a horror film if he just went to another area. So who knows?
Yeah, there's a certain amount of what's the phrase from Pitch Meeting? Because so the movie can happen. There's a certain amount that we'll allow. Fair play. Harry, do you want to go next?
Yes, go on. I am not willing to be forgiving on the so the movie can happen. You can write a scenario like this without it being as contrived as all hell. As such, I'm going to break your heart here and give it 4 burgers out of 12.
4. Oh no.
Yes, I'm going very hard on this one because it really rubbed me up the wrong way. If a film by the third of the way through has me yelling at the screen about how every decision all of the characters are making is stupid and is completely to their detriment, and not just stupid in an understandable way, in a boneheaded, I've switched my brain off for the sake of the script, and the script is not working in a as a result of fashion. It's working in a and then this happened cause of chain effect. Instead of it doing the this happened and then as a result of this happened, and as a result of this, it just goes this happened, then this happened, then this happened. I don't like it. It frustrated me. I don't want to watch it again. 4.
That's fair enough. Okay, let me throw a little challenge to you. If we need this conflict to happen, is there a fix you could do? A small fix that would avoid the idiot ball?
I actually do have one.
Oh,
and
I could.
You could.
Oh, sorry. You
sorry,
go
no.
first,
I was going to say I do have one suggestion, and it was only because I was thinking of it during the watch. They could have taken some sort of inspiration from the Zodiac killings.
Oh.
In particular, the couple that were out on the lake, and that went Pete Tong.
Oh, so it's less like it's less random, like the
More
Chavs
targeted.
are directed. I guess so. It would change the sort of motive. I like the fact that the Chavs here are like a sort of a landmine that can be tripped on, like more kind of like an animal, basically, that isn't acting with purpose. But I see where you're going. Harry, you had an idea.
Shave. I know it's already 90 minutes. Shave 10 minutes off. Take out the ridiculous scene where he walks into somebody's house and have it all engage from the moment they get onto that beach. Have there be so that there is not just the scene where he walks up and asks them to leave and eventually they leave. He asks them to leave at first because he's trying to be polite. Then they become belligerent. They start to get more aggressive. They become more confrontational, and then they walk off. Then they stick around. You already have the scene where the tire is burst. Just have it so as the tire is burst, they get more confrontational, and then it leads, because they're already trapped in that situation, then it leads into the dog stabbing situation. And then you can have the chain of events play out relatively similar.
So basically not giving them a chance to see the problem and say, yeah, know what, let's stay out overnight anyway.
Yeah, don't give them a chance to be stupid. Have the situation escalate more quickly in their time, but you can use the language of cinema to ramp it up over time. You don't even necessarily need to cut the 10 minutes out if you have it built up in a more artful and dramatic way.
All right. I mean, I don't mind it being a shorter film. It's fine. A lot of those 80s classics are 78 minutes long.
There you go.
I'd bump it up for that. I mean, I'd add a couple of burgers just for not doing Steve going into the house, because that annoyed me so much. Fair play. A 4, harsher than I hoped for, but justified with clear thinking. Fair play. Connor, over to you, sir.
Right. The reason I'm going to give it a fence-sitting 6 is to elongate the burger analogy more than is appropriate. As a carnivore, I can respect that, like Harry on a lunch break will enjoy a quarter pounder, but for me, I'd have to deconstruct it all and take off the bun and throw out the gherkins or whatever, and like peel off the plastic cheese just to eat the meat. And that's how it felt trying to watch this. Like, I can respect the elements that went to putting the burger together, but I kind of only wanted to eat the beef patty, and I had to suffer through munching on plastic cheese and occasionally stop and sip some water to get through it. And that's how it felt as a viewing experience. So there are elements of good filmmaking here, but it was just so uncomfortable to watch that it wasn't a pleasant viewing experience. And I know it's not meant to be pleasant in terms of it's meant to be visceral and unsettling, but like most of these films, I can sit through all the way. It's just that his character was so disconcertingly weak, and I also just don't want to see a woman get repeatedly tortured over and over. That's not how I want to spend my Monday night. So yeah, bit middle of the road from me.
No, I can respect that. It's interesting because it felt to me like they're really trying to avoid the sort of, this is 2008, like they were kind of, the torture porn stuff had been around a while. I felt like they were trying to dodge it a bit or keep it to a few scenes and spend a lot of time on sort of evade and capture stuff. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from. It's fascinating material, but some very difficult parts that you would want to separate out. Yeah, I can go with that. Oh, now I just really want to see what you think of funny games. Another time.
I've heard that that's a very difficult film.
That's one I won't rewatch.
Yes.
I didn't like it. It crossed a line for me.
Did I offer you guys funny games in the selection of Halloween films?
I think you might have done, but I kind of knee jerk avoided it because I thought to myself, okay, that's a really bad one. I've seen like lots of horror YouTubers talk about it and go like, it didn't work for me.
Is it the film version of Berserk's Eclipse chapter?
Oh God!
Oh,
if it is, then Jesus Christ, I'm not
kind of in terms of just like unrelenting horror.
Right.
But it's much more meta. It's kind of like an attack on horror fans. It's a very interesting one. But
let me guess: are the villains psycho horror fans trying to recreate their favorite torture scenes?
Not in the least.
No.
Oh, okay, all right.
Not in the least. It's It came out. I want to say it came out in 1997, so 1 year after Scream. But,
didn't they remake it though?
Yes, they remade it almost shot for shot. There's about two shots that are different. So I prefer the Austrian version.
With Naomi What's-her-face.
Yeah, Naomi Watts and
just Naomi
Tim
Watts.
Roth.
Naomi Watts, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I would recommend the Austrian version, but you're not losing out if you watch the American language remake. But okay, so we have an 8, a 4, and a 6. Interesting. I mean, chat's been a bit divided as well on it. Generally more positive, I'd say. For me, I might sound like a broken record, but it's a 9. Mostly it's super thought-provoking. I could relate to it so much. There were the early elements of horror to me were just things that struck home because it's like I've been in that situation where it's so uncomfortable and you just feel out of your element. But I have to take off a huge amount because of basically a lack of character development, a lack of complexity in some areas, and the contrivances were cheating. We've pointed them out. The contrivances are cheating. I will give credit a little bit. I meant to say this earlier, but there was some quite nice dark humour in this film that I quite liked. Oh, a late one from Dr. Prepper. If I didn't get that up already, sorry, mate. But a 9. Oh, wait, no, it's a joke. Sorry, late in the stream. I missed a joke, but I like it. All right. Yeah, there was some dark humour really early on that I'd kind of missed. I don't know if you guys caught that. If you didn't, so there's little things like sly jokes.
You mean like the little car seat when it starts? When it starts vibrating.
Oh no, I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking like when they drive into the area, into the Eden Lake area, their sat nav tells them turn around. As soon as possible. Yeah. That was quite funny. In this scene, just after they've heard the couple arguing, Fassbender starts putting the moves on her, and it all goes quiet. And then, they talk a bit. It goes quiet. They talk a bit, and then Fassbender starts putting the moves on. And instead of hearing a couple arguing outside, you start hearing a car revving its engine. And it's a weird little joke that maybe isn't even intended, but I think it's quite subtle and deliberate. So I liked those, and I'd completely missed them the first time, but it's a cute little sound joke that they put in there. It's not quite the train entering the tunnel, but, it's of that nature. But yeah, it's balancing all those out. I think it is a 9. I mean, it's fascinating. I think it's aged very well. People saying that it was demonizing and making a problem out of nothing. It's not looking good. Just have to point to Mizzy.
I think accurately depicting is probably the sin of this film.
Yes. Yeah, there are real life crimes that this draws from that I cannot describe on YouTube, but they involved younger victims and mobile phones. And we will and also a tent for people intent on looking up the real life horrors. But we will speak no more of this.
Just out of interest, I'm assuming you know of the inspirations.
There are a few incidences. I couldn't find many specific ones, but I found a couple that were.
Suzanne Kappa wasn't one of them, was it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I was looking at things where it was sort of knifings on estates that were filmed.
Oh, okay. I'm just thinking because the setting on fire in the woods, that was something that happened. I mean, among other things.
Okay.
If you want to know more, I made a video of it on my channel. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was that. I couldn't get Watkins to look at much, but I found a couple of ones that were sort of at that time. It was about 2006 when he was writing this.
Right.
But he managed to get it funded quite quickly and get it off the ground. But yeah. Well, that is everything. Thoughts and scores are out there, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Quite a mixed response from the panel, but I would also say a really good discussion. So I'm so glad I had you on for it. Like, I thought, given that you spend a lot of your days charting the decline, that you'd be perfect guests for this.
Yeah, it's just a continuity of awful news at this point.
What you thought is after a miserable day looking at miserable things happening, we'd enjoy watching a film where it's a sequence of miserable things happening.
Well, we could cover Step Up to the Streets if you want. You know, I'm always up for that. I love a dance movie.
It works for me. Finally, a film I can really sink my teeth into.
All right. Well, I think that is everything. I didn't mention it earlier in the beginning. I'll mention it now. There's a lovely group of content creators collaborating as the Old Glory Club. They do some really good film analysis. I hadn't read the film analysis before, but Raging Mandrill did a great piece on Pan's Labyrinth. Really, really good. If you haven't read it, superb analysis. They asked me on to do some Halloween discussions for them. So I recorded a discussion for them with them talking about Robert Eggers' The Witch from 2015.
Fantastic film.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to his adaptation of Nosferatu?
Absolutely.
I wasn't until I realised it was him doing it. Because, oh, God, they're doing Nosferatu. Oh, I can't wait to see how they... Oh, it's Robert Eggers.
Oh, it's purely because it's him. We've got both Robert Eggers' Nosferatu and André Œuvredal's Last Voyage of the Demeter. So both sort of hitting the same part of the Dracula-ish myth.
I've not heard of that second one, so I'll have to keep my eye out if you say it's something to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, so it's from a Norwegian director who I didn't like his first one, Troll Hunter, but I really loved The Autopsy of Jane Doe. So take it with a pinch of salt. Anyway, folks, Old Glory Club. If you want to throw them a bit of cash, it's exclusive content, but you can hear me have a really stumbling there. You hear me have a really good conversation with Raging Mandrill about The Witch. I know a whole bunch of people asked me to cover that. This is coming. John Garce, it would be an honour to be on that film festival. I have not been asked. I doubt I would be, but I am on Last Things Film Festival. My brain is missing the name of it at the moment, but go look at Last Things. He does great work. He's been on this channel. He's doing a film festival that is going live, I want to say, in December, and I am on there with him talking about everything everywhere all at once. And so that will be great. So if you want to see me on a film festival, go for that one. I think that is pretty much everything. So I will get out the horror homework. We are finished. Oh, my brain has slipped. I remember what it is. Our horror homework next week is going to be Evil Dead 2013. And friend of the channel, Yiz, is coming back for that one. She did an absolutely great job covering Autopsy of Jane Doe and Blackcoat's Daughter with me. So I've asked her back for something very different. Evil Dead, the 2013 remake. We're covering that next week. So yeah, that should be quite an intense one. Obviously, it's not the last one. We're doing À l'intérieur at the end of the month. So there's more to come. We've overrun slightly, so I will close it off now. Massive thanks to guests Connor, Harry, and TCG. Thank you so much, guys.
Pleasure
Pleasure.
as always.
Everyone, I've urged in your audience to keep their eyes peeled on lotuseaters.com on Halloween week, because some fun surprises will be coming.
There might be some interesting cameos.
Oh yeah, always keep your eyes peeled on lotuseaters.com. There's always good stuff on there. All right, and chat, thank you to you. And with that said, I will only mildly scolded by Super Nanny. I will sign off now. So you have your horror homework. You've had a great discussion on Eden Lake. I'll bid you adieu. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
#Showgang.
Well,
Nailed it.